Yes.
The Lead Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1404 of the War News stream. And oh man, do we have some big titles and big news tonight. China's launched a massive, and I mean massive, military operation around Taiwan this evening. We've also seen Ukraine strike crucial Russian airfields, and also another massive one. U.S. forces apparently covertly struck Venezuelan land targets a day or two ago, and we just heard about it today. And we have massive news out of Syria as well, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, folks, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of major news from around the world. And I have to admit that today is as major a day as can be seen in the news, at least over the course of this year. We have heard significant developments from the People's Republic of China's government that they've now announced a brand new major military exercise, the largest one in terms of vessels and aircraft involved, as well as the largest ones in the terms of surface area involved surrounding the seas outside of Taiwan. Justice Mission 2025 has just been announced by the People's Liberation Army just hours before we went live on air, and we've understood that Taiwanese forces are now at a state of high alert, while at the same time, Chinese state media is now broadcasting potential targets that could be hit within Taiwan if the Chinese conduct any form of an armed attack against the island. Meanwhile, the Chinese government has made a direct statement that this is a direct response to the United States selling around $11 billion worth of weapons systems to the Republic of China on the island of Taiwan just several days ago. Meanwhile, we have also heard significant developments on the other side of the world within the Americas, as it appears that the President of the United States, either through a slip-up or through an open admission today, has admitted that the United States forces have apparently conducted a land strike in Venezuela at some point either today or several days ago. While that statement was made, we did hear of a large explosion and fire breaking out at the port city of Maracaibo, which generally lines up with the statements from the President of the United States indicating that some sort of a port facility or port location had been hit by a U.S. strike. Meanwhile, U.S. forces are still piling into Puerto Rico at the moment, and the United States of America is now taking actions to block the line of sight of public observers who have been photographing the movements and deployments of U.S. forces within the area to try and ensure that operational security is upheld. Meanwhile, we've also heard that at the same time within the Middle East, things are certainly heating up quite heavily. We have now heard that there is an armed uprising against the Syrian Interim Government, or specifically al-Jilani's regime, within the area of the Alawite coastline of the western part of Syria. We have now heard that Syrian interim governments have moved into the area and have begun to open fire against these uprisings and protests, and have started to conduct mass arrests, including the mass arrests of children. Based off of the last time that this has happened, which was right after Jilani took control, we can expect that massacres and genocides will most likely be incredibly common along the Alawite coast for the next several days or weeks, as that is generally what was conducted in the last actions that were seen near to the area of the Alawite coastline. Meanwhile, the Israelis are flying down to West Palm Beach at the moment to go talk to the President of the United States about the clear and undeniable evidence that they have that the Islamic Republic of Iran is building up their missile facilities and missile production equipment as much as they possibly can to prepare for an eventual attack against the State of Israel, once again heavily pushing for the green light to be able to conduct strikes on the Islamic Republic of Iran. Meanwhile, the Islamic Republic of Iran is apparently having ongoing protests within the city of Tehran. The exact reason for these protests is unknown, but word is beginning to spread that these are apparently growing in volume and size. We do not have any video or picture evidence at the time, but hopefully we will be able to get some either while we're live on air or during our off time tomorrow. Nevertheless, the Saudi-backed transitional council within the area of the Yemeni civil war is currently conducting an offensive against the Hadrami elite forces backed by the United Arab Emirates. From what we understand, the transitional council backed by the Saudis is apparently absolutely shellacking the Hadrami elite forces. I guess they've now dropped the part of the elite, and now they're just the Hadrami guys, and no longer the Hadrami elite forces. The Yemeni Houthis are also stating that they're getting ready for another conflict with Israel, while at the same time an ISIS cell within the area of Somaliland has actually issued a direct threat to the state of Israel that any attempt to use their territory or lands within the area of Somaliland will be met with attacks and reprisals by the ISIS cells and the Al-Qaeda groups that are currently within Somaliland. We've also heard that the Ukrainian armed forces have inflicted significant damage onto the Russian Federation by deep strikes today within the Krasnodar Krai Oblast, along with significant fighting happening along the Ukrainian front line. We've also heard of ongoing peace talks within West Palm Beach, which don't really appear to have produced much of anything rather than more confusion for the public. But before we get on into all this news, starting with our largest stories first, and working our way on down into the stories throughout the rest of the night, we have been able to hear that at this moment we actually have breaking news emerging on the story we're about to get into, which is the Taiwan situation. And Matthew, what breaking news do we have coming out at this moment?
All right, so right now, China has announced a very sudden and very massive military operation around Taiwan. This is a very different and not the usual military exercise that we've seen so far. We have just gotten word, a cable from Taiwan's Coast Guard. They've observed at least 4 Chinese Coast Guard vessels currently approaching the waters off of Taiwan's north and east. And we're also hearing that Taiwan has just dispatched several large ships from the Taiwanese Coast Guard to confront them head on, and it seems like it's going down right this second. So the big deal, folks, is this announcement by China was very sudden. This was not a planned exercise. This is something that just broke out right before we went live on the stream right now. So that is a bit concerning that they didn't announce it previously, and it looks like Taiwan is really not sure how to react to it, and they're kind of taking a very aggressive approach to dealing with this right now. So the tensions are high, so that means the risk of escalation is also through the roof as well. So we're currently watching at the moment, and I'll bring you more updates when we have them.
And of course, folks, this is a developing story that is happening while we are live on air at the moment, and according to statements from the Republic of China's Coast Guard, which is the Taiwanese government, they have stated that China Coast Guard vessels of the Chinese Communist Party, or specifically the People's Republic of China, are now approaching Taiwanese territorial waters, which means they're about 20 to 25 miles off the coast right now of Taiwan, on the northern and eastern side of their islands. Right now, the Republic of China's Coast Guard on the island of Taiwan is being dispatched to respond to these attempted incursions by the China Coast Guard and to either face them down or try and run them away from Taiwanese waters. But with that in mind, folks, while we're trying to get more information on this developing situation at the moment, we will bring y'all through all of the major developments and significant news that's come out from the day, just from everything that's happened over the past few hours right before we went live on air. The People's Republic of China's government did announce that they were going to be conducting Justice Mission 2025. This is actually a picture that was made by the Taiwan Security Monitor monitor showing the areas of the declared PLA joint exercise zones, and also in the blue line, the Taiwan ADIZ, or the Air Defense Identification Zone. Whenever any aircraft enter this area within the blue line surrounding the island of Taiwan, this leads the Taiwanese Air Force to be scrambled and to respond immediately, considering that that aircraft could pose an imminent or dangerous threat to the Republic of China's sovereignty on the island of Taiwan. Many of y'all will notice that out of the 5 zones that the People's Liberation Army is declaring as a joint exercise zone, zones 3, 4, and 5 are wildly close to Taiwanese territorial waters. As a matter of fact, from what we can tell, zone 5 gets about 35 miles away from the Taiwanese coast, meaning that the very edge of the northwestern corner of Zone 5 is only 10 miles away from the territorial water barrier or border with the open international waters surrounding the island. This is a significant and incredibly escalatory action. On top of that, due to the lack of any forewarning that was given with the announcement of this exercise. Prior exercises have been seen like this, not to the size and scale, called the Joint Sword exercises, which are a biannual military exercise usually conducted by the People's Republic of China to try and conduct low-level coercion efforts against the Republic of China on the island of Taiwan. These exercises, however, are usually somewhat large, but not as large as the one that we're seeing right now, and also encompass zones that are generally a little bit farther away from Taiwan, and the zones are also a little bit smaller in scale in the amount of area that singular zones cover. This Justice Mission 2025 is basically an Operation Joint Sword, but about twice the size from what we understand. We have not gotten any information about the specific assets that have been involved by the People's Liberation Army Navy, the People's Liberation Army Air Force, the China Coast Guard, the People's Liberation Army Army, or the People's Liberation Army Navy Marine Corps, or the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, or the People's Liberation Army Special Support Forces at the moment. So we're still trying to get information on all of the assets and forces that are involved in this exercise, but we would be highly likely to believe that most of these forces did originate from the Eastern Theater Command of the People's Republic of China, which is tasked with the responsibility of conducting low-level coercion efforts against Taiwan and also launching military exercises such as these. The 91st, 92nd, and 93rd Group Armies are all a part of the Eastern Theater Command, along with significant naval assets, including a single carrier strike group, the Liaoning, which is also based within the Eastern Theater Command. We do understand that there's also a decent amount of what we could describe as capital ships, which also fall under the command of the Eastern Theater Command within this area, which could be used in the naval extent of this exercise, and we've already been able to confirm that at this moment, at a minimum, 4 China Coast Guard vessels are already involved in the exercise and have gotten incredibly close to Taiwanese territorial waters, invoking an immediate response by the Taiwanese Coast Guard. We've also been able to hear some additional details and information about Justice Mission 2025 as well, as in these areas of water in these zones apparently are completely closed off to any form of maritime traffic. One thing that's incredibly interesting about that, and I want to point this out to y'all, is that Zone 2 up here at the top in the northwestern region, straddling the strait between China and Taiwan itself, is actually in the middle of the Formosa Strait, or as some people call it, the Taiwan Strait. That actually means that this zone has effectively closed off international waters for passage between Taiwan and China, because for a commercial vessel to be able to pass through this area, they're either going to have to veer mostly into Chinese territorial waters, or they're going to have to veer into Taiwanese territorial waters to make it around the zone that's been declared in the middle of the international waters zone, and also outside of the exclusive economic zones of both China and Taiwan. We do not know why that zone was declared within that area, but I have a feeling that it's most likely there to start stirring up some attention from other foreign governments, as the fact that this is generally going to stop any sort of international commercial traffic from easily passing through this area. It's probably going to become highly likely that a lot of governments are going to pay attention to this ongoing situation, considering that it could be affecting maritime trade, which is usually a significant concern of any national government anywhere within the world. We've also been able to hear additional details as well from Chinese state media that is apparently highlighting possible targets that could be hit within the area of the island of Taiwan, including some government buildings within the city of Taipei, as well as another facility of some sort, which is in the mountain ranges of the southern part part of the island, near to the area of the city of Chiayi or Gaoshu, somewhere around that area. We've also seen that apparently they highlighted the port of the city of Kaohsiung as a possible target as well, and we can also see that they've highlighted a significant military airfield near to Hualien as a possible target as well, at least on Chinese state TV. This military airbase, for that matter, is actually a somewhat significant one for the Republic of China's Air Force, as it actually has protected mountain entrenchments for its aircraft to stay in as permanent hangar structures. And this means that this would be a lot more difficult for the People's Liberation Army Air Force and People's Liberation Army Rocket Forces and Navy to be able to conduct any form of decisive blows or attacks against the air wings and squadrons at this airfield, as they would have to be able to punch through the majorly protected bunker entrances to these hangars, or they would have to bust through the mountain itself and cave in the hangar below, which is incredibly difficult even for countries like the People's Republic of China and even the United States of America, which used the massive ordnance penetrators to try and hit the Pickaxe Mountain area, or really the Natanz uranium enrichment facility, and still had minimal success even at that with the most serious form of penetrating ordnance that we had within the U.S. military, meaning that this facility may generally be out of reach for the Chinese to put entirely out of action, and also the Republic of China's Air Force's air squadrons at this airbase may still be operational, meaning that it's a high priority target for the the People's Republic of China to attempt to hit and destroy. We've also heard additional statements as well, showing that the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of China, which is Taiwan, is at a state of high alert at the moment, and they actually did publish some sort of a video just literally an hour before we went on air, apparently showing a little bit of their current response, or showing clips from prior responses, giving the Taiwanese public and the general public around the world a little bit of an idea of what they're doing right now. We can see in the clip here a large amount of different clips, montages generally, showing the Taiwanese Navy, the Taiwanese Air Defense Forces, the Taiwanese rocket artillery in the form of the M142 HIMARS, also their own indigenously made fighter aircraft, including F-16s, which are not indigenously made, let me make that clear. We can also see them showing more of the Patriot batteries that they currently do have in operation, most likely a PAC-M2 or a PAC-M3. We can also see them simulating firefighting efforts, their M1 Abrams tanks, which are in limited number, out on the streets, as well as infantry combat drills, AWACS operations as well from the Republic of China's Air Force, rearming of their indigenous fighters, which I believe is the F-2, if I'm not mistaken. The F-2C, if I'm not mistaken. I actually think that's the specific designation.
Also, by the way, just a quick update about the ships that were approaching from the north and south around Taiwan. The Chinese Coast Guard has not officially announced its involvement in these exercises, so not really sure if that's something separate from the exercises or what, but Taiwan has confirmed, though, that at least over 4 Chinese Coast Guard vessels are approaching their waters, but apparently they're not being announced as part of the operation, so nobody's really sure what that's about. So we're watching that. Right now, we haven't seen, I haven't really heard any official reports yet of any Chinese military vessels actually approaching the coast of Taiwan. Of course, it will be happening soon, but right now it appears to be just the Chinese Coast Guard that's been the first to arrive on the coast of Taiwan.
It does appear that is the case at the moment, and we do understand that at the moment, folks, just to clarify this, that this military exercise was literally just announced about an hour and a half to 2 hours ago. So right now, we're trying to wait and see what People's Liberation Army equipment is going to arrive within the area. It's highly likely going to be large elements of the Navy based out of the Eastern Theater Command, which will start to arrive in this area incredibly soon. That's at least what we would expect, especially going off of the prior precedents that have been laid out in the Operation Joint Sword exercises, which also had a great deal of naval presence, specifically from the Eastern Theater Command. We've also seen that apparently within the Taiwanese government, the political opposition, which is the Kuomintang, is revealed that their party has been in communication with the Chinese Communist Party, and that she hopes to visit China and meet Xi Jinping early next year. I have to just let y'all know up front, though, before people sit here and say, oh my god, look at that, the opposition is starting to turn tail. The Kuomintang has turned tail for decades. I mean, this is nothing entirely new. It's just that another election is coming around within Taiwan, and for that reason, the Kuomintang is getting a little bit of extra attention. To explain the situation that exists internally, as far as the politics of foreign policy are concerned within the Republic of China, which is the island of Taiwan, currently the Kuomintang, which is the KMT, exists as a minority party, a significantly small minority party within the country that is generally hyper-nationalist. For that reason, they believe that China should be unified under a singular Chinese banner no matter what. This has meant that while Chiang Kai-shek was the original leader of the Kuomintang, and he was actually the one who led the Republic of China's armed forces against the Communist Chinese on the mainland during the Chinese Civil War, in the modern day, the KMT is basically a Communist Chinese sympathizer for the larger part, and heavily advocates for a reunification of Taiwan and China into a singular nation, a lot like the Republic of China used to be before the Chinese Civil War began and split the country into basically two pieces, with the Communist Chinese running the mainland and the non-Communist Chinese, which are now democratic, running the island of Taiwan, formerly Formosa. So that is what we understand to be the situation at the moment internally, and they have, quite literally, folks, no chance in hell of winning an election within Taiwan. The KMT historically has a history of conducting massacres and basically small-form genocides against the Taiwanese public in prior history in the decades that they've run the island, including what's been called the White Terror. So for that reason, nobody's really a big fan of the KMT, and nobody's really a big fan of the kind of hyper-nationalist talk that they put out about reunifying with the Communist Chinese to create a singular Chinese state. They're not going to win an election anytime soon, so that's really more so background noise than anything. Still, a lot of people are weighing in at this moment about what this is and what is going on with this, and we actually do have a little bit of an inkling from the Chinese government about why this exercise is being conducted so promptly and is being conducted with basically no notice on a larger scale than ever before seen. According to the People's Republic of China, or Chinese state media, they have openly framed the PLA's Justice Mission 2025 drills as a direct response to the record 11.1 billion US arms deal to Taiwan. So it actually appears that this is a direct response, at least according to Chinese state media, to U.S. arms sales to the island of Taiwan. So that seems to be the official response or reason that the Chinese are conducting this military exercise at the moment. But a lot of people are actually talking about this and talking about what they believe it's going to be and what this might turn into. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so now that we're seeing this sudden and massive military exercise, at least that's what's being called right now. It could be anything, because remember that Ukraine started with a military exercise too. That entire war kicked off when Russia said they were doing massive military exercises, and then it turned into a full-blown multi-year invasion. So you never know with this type of stuff. We don't know right now, but what are your thoughts about the whole situation? It looks like 45% said it's simply an extreme Chinese military exercise, while 26% said this is likely an invasion attempt, and 22% said it seems like a 50-50 chance. So right now the tensions are extremely high, mainly because, just like the enforcer mentioned, that $11 billion in weapons was approved to be sold from the United States to Taiwan, and obviously that was going to ruffle feathers to the extreme inside of China. And also at the same time, you have Japan also building military enclaves or missile enclaves right near Taiwan. So there's a lot of major escalations happening all at once right now. Also, we haven't mentioned this yet, but Russia just vowed to help China militarily when they invade Taiwan. That was announced today, coming out of the Russian Federation. So a lot of things seem to be lining up right now for China to possibly pull something off sooner than expected, and this is definitely proof of it. Also, by the way, like we mentioned as well, Taiwan is currently deploying forces. So they're taking it seriously. They're getting ready to defend the island if necessary. So they're in full-blown defense mode right now, and if something pops off, it could be happening extremely quickly, and it's going to be hard to keep up with. But Enforcer, what say you?
Also, by the way, I do have to add a little bit of an additional side note that apparently today or yesterday there's word coming out that China just broke one of their brand new prototype lithography machines that they were trying to get off of the ground. So that also is a little bit of an added issue as well, is that just to let y'all know, there is a little bit of a strategic race in computer technology going on right now. Taiwan's TSMC is home to the majority of the lithography machines within the entirety of the world. The lithography machines are incredibly important in being able to create wafer chips and CPUs for computer systems around the world, including those within the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, and so on. The People's Republic of China considers this to be a strategic imperative, especially in technology and economic prowess, as computer technology generally is the very tool of the future to grow a nation into a superpower size militarized economy. For this reason, China either wants to take possession of TSMC and its intact lithography machines, or they want to be able to produce their own lithography machines and be able to produce their own semiconductors, wafers, and CPUs so that they're completely independent from a Western-aligned Taiwan that produces those very forms of equipment. This has been a bit of an issue. They've run into a decent amount of not really windfalls, but generally, I guess you could say step backs, if you want to call it that, in trying to produce lithography machines. And apparently yesterday, there was a critical failure with one of their lithography machines to where it has basically completely seized up and has been broken. So for that reason, it also appears that they're not really making it that far in that sort of measure in any extent, and they're now looking to try and possibly once again reassert their eventual claim of the island of Taiwan to take control of some form of lithography machines, which exist in very large number at the TSMC facilities in Taiwan. But however, it also does seem that the Russian Federation is now openly supporting and is even offering to provide military support to the People's Republic of China in an eventual invasion of the island of Taiwan and the resecuring of it. I would have to say that this is probably an extreme Chinese naval exercise, because while they probably want to kick off this conflict right now, we all have to understand, folks, that the People's Republic of China's armed forces still have a little ways to go to be completely ready for an amphibious war, and especially an amphibious landing on Taiwan. So generally, that's what we're believing at the moment. It's a major military exercise, probably not going to be an invasion. It's a little unlikely. But Matthew, I actually hear that we have more breaking news coming out of this moment. And what do we have?
All right. So right now we are hearing that China has begun live fire anti-ship activities off of the coast of Taiwan. It just started apparently minutes ago. They're currently live firing anti-ship munitions right off the coast of Taiwan. It appears to be happening at the north and southwest part of the island of Taiwan, and it's part of the exercise. We're currently hearing that destroyers, frigates, fighter bombers, and unmanned aerial vehicles, also known as drones, and other forces are taking part in this, and apparently they are doing live fire and simulated strikes against land targets as of this moment. Also, by the way, we have just gotten our first image of one of the Chinese Coast Guard vessels lurking off the coast, which we're not really sure if it's involved in these exercises or not. But we do see here, this is a picture from a Taiwanese vessel looking out at a Chinese Coast Guard vessel, one of the four that's currently lurking around. So it is popping off literally right this second. And this is just the beginning of it, by the way. It's just a start. So we're not sure where this is going to go, but currently there is live fire, and Taiwan is apparently confronting these vessels as we speak.
To get you all a closer up image of this whole type, this is China Coast Guard vessel 1303 pictured here. This is generally the equivalent of a Chinese Coast Guard cutter, similar to that of the U.S. Coast Guard, and while it is armed, it is not heavily armed to the level of, say, a People's Liberation Army Navy frigate or destroyer. So for that reason, it's decently armed, but not wildly armed to the point that it's going to pose a major strategic threat, at least at this moment. However, it did come incredibly close to territorial waters of the island of Taiwan, as you can actually see it as that small little blip right there on the horizon in the actual picture that has not been modified or enlarged. You can actually see the enlarged image showing a higher definition picture of the ship on the horizon up in the top left of this image. But this is the first confirmed photography that we have out of the ongoing situation at this moment, and this apparently was taken from a Taiwanese Coast Guard vessel that is in the area facing down this Coast Guard ship of the Chinese at this moment right now. So that is what we're currently seeing at this time, and we also can confirm that apparently the Eastern Theater Command did conduct some form of a live fire anti-ship drill in the sea and airspace north and southwest of Taiwan as part of Exercise Justice Mission 2025. I also have to keep in mind, folks, that these exercises usually last for several days. This is probably the opening hours, just alone, of this ongoing exercise, and we'll probably see that further exercises will be conducted by the People's Liberation Army over the next several days within these zones that have been declared around Taiwan. Most importantly, these anti-ship drills have been conducted in somewhat key areas around Taiwan, in the southwest near to the port of Kaohsiung, and also in the north near to the capital of Taipei. These sorts of actions are trying to show, at least in form, that the People's Liberation Army does have the firepower and ability and expertise to be able to conduct anti-ship attacks, most likely to sink any commercial shipping that will be attempting to make it into the major ports of the island. The island of Taiwan is heavily dependent on sea lift capability to be able to supply itself militarily and the citizenry of the island as far as the civil side of things are concerned. The port of Kaohsiung is the largest and most important port in the entirety of Taiwan. Any anti-ship missile drills that are conducted in this area are not only directed against the United States Navy and the Taiwanese Navy, but they're also directed against, at least as a starker warning, to the commercial shipping that may be trying to get into the port of Kaohsiung, as if they are able to blockade the island of Taiwan, they basically will be able to starve them because they will not be able to get the form of imports that they need to be able to keep their country running or to even keep a large part of their citizenry on the island fed. So that appears to be some sort of a direct warning and a sort, once again, another low-level coercion effort as a part of the People's Liberation Army's concept of non-military war activities, which generally this would fall directly under. Apparently, we've also heard that destroyers, frigates, fighter bombers, drones, and other forces are taking part in these drills. So we can confirm that a larger part of the Eastern Theater Command's fleet is out at sea at this moment, which is including maritime and aerial target hunting operations and simulated strikes on land targets, which most likely would be port facilities, military bases such as airfields, barracks, and naval ports, and also any other critical infrastructure such as command posts, government headquarters and buildings, police stations, and so on, which would be considered to be priority targets for the People's Liberation Army. So that appears to be what we are hearing ongoing at the moment around the island of Taiwan, and I have to be entirely honest with y'all, this was kind of thrown on us last minute, really for the entirety of the world, even Taiwan itself, and this appears to be becoming a fairly large exercise. I do want to make it clear, though, that in my opinion, folks, the chances of China starting a war with Taiwan right now are not going to be incredibly high. I would say that there's probably maybe a 15 to 20% chance, which is fairly high given all things considered, that the Chinese may try and start a war with Taiwan, but generally I'm leaning more towards the concept this is just another major military exercise. The People's Liberation Army heavily emphasizes NWNA, which are non-war military activities. That is a specific doctrine of the People's Liberation Army. The Chinese military believes that a war is best fought without fighting a war, so they lean heavily into psychological operations and also intimidation to try and get their way, especially around the regional area. This means that this action today is probably not going to result in any sort of direct attack against Taiwan, but they are going to be trying to put significant pressure on the Taiwanese government to make them believe that if a war begins, they may as well be hopeless. The Chinese, once again, do believe that they can defeat an enemy inside of their heads before they have to even defeat them in battle, which also softens them up and makes them a lot easier to deal with once a conflict begins. And these sorts of military exercises always lean into that sort of a concept, and we have never seen one actually lead to a full-scale exchange of fire at this point. And so that's why we're expecting generally that it's unlikely that this will turn into a full-blown war at the moment, but it is an incredibly concerning escalation, and once again, a very concerning coercion effort that's being conducted by the Chinese once again. This brings us on, however, into some fairly interesting statements that have been made by the Russian Federation today concerning this very situation. They have stated that they are completely backing the People's Republic of China in the event of an escalation around Taiwan, and that was made by the Foreign Minister Lavrov. We've also heard additional statements, according to the Foreign Ministry of Russia, that they may even provide military support to the Chinese if they conduct an invasion of the island of Taiwan. We do not know what that military support would look like at the moment. We do not know if that means that they're going to try and supply China with arms, and if so, what equipment. They're practically running out of it in Ukraine, so I don't know what they would give the Chinese. Or it may mean that they're going to use the Pacific Fleet, based out of Vladivostok, to try and, or the Far East Fleet, as some people call it, to try and support the Chinese with additional naval support. And let me go pull up the Pacific Fleet of Russia really quickly, to go and show you all what is under the command of the Pacific Fleet at the moment. So,
Also, real quick, by the way, while you're pulling that up to tell people about the ships, I just want to give people a quick update on the airspace situation around Taiwan. People are noting this in the live chat. Right now, there appears to be normal commercial traffic leaving and entering Taiwan's airspace. So as of right now, we are not seeing any NOTAMs issued, or at least I haven't seen them. So perhaps they are in existence, and maybe we hadn't spotted them yet. But it looks like, generally speaking, aircraft are still arriving normally to the island. So that hasn't changed as of right this second. So waiting to see if maybe there's some type of airport closures or something of that nature. But remember, folks, it literally just broke out. So Taiwan may be sort of struggling to react to this. It could be maybe they're late in issuing NOTAMs. That could also be a possibility. But right now it appears that air traffic is normal for the people asking.
And it does appear that that is ongoing at the moment. And we have also been able to see, really quickly to pull this up for all of y'all, what the Russian Pacific Fleet would have in its possession to be able to try and support the People's Liberation Army if they try and conduct an invasion. They have a Slava-class cruiser. Many of y'all will know that one. Matthew, do you remember that one from a long time ago? Like, 4 years ago almost?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It turned into a submarine, I think.
Yeah, it did. But this is the flagship of the Pacific Fleet, the Varyag, which is the sister ship to the Moskva, which many of y'all will know was sank by a country without a navy. So this thing might not really provide that much support. That is actually the best armed ship in the Pacific Fleet, mind you all. They also have about 5 Udaloy-class destroyers, which are from a bygone era for the large part. All of these were laid down in the mid-'80s and were put into service very recently. I mean, quite recently. A lot of them were just reactivated within, say, the last 10 years. So a lot of these have been mothballed, and we would assume, a lot like the Moskva and the Varyag, these probably are not going to be operational when actually put into service, or at least a large amount of their systems won't really work. We also understand that they have the Staragushi, which is also another vessel of theirs. They actually have a decent amount of these in their Baltisk Peninsula flotilla based out of Kaliningrad, but these are more so corvette-sized vessels and do not have a great deal of firepower. Most of them are actually relatively new, but once again, the Russians don't really have a lot of a shipbuilding ability these days, so these corvettes are lightly equipped. They also have the Gremyashi class as well, which is a fairly newer vessel, but once again, fairly limited in firepower and ability. We also know that they have a decent amount of, and I mean quite a large amount for that matter, of anti-ship carrying vessels and also missile corvettes. We're getting into the cute guppies now. We're getting into the Grisha class. These are quite old. You can tell because this picture's in black and white. These are basically anti-aircraft destroyers, or corvettes, the best way to describe them. They also have the Nanuchkas, which are anti-ship boats. Basically the modern equivalent of a Russian torpedo boat, but they do fire anti-ship missiles. Specifically, I believe it's the S3, it's the Granite, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll have to see if I can get that correct here. Oh, dang. I'm sorry, folks. Let me see here. I'm trying to make sure I get that correct. Oh, apparently this thing doesn't carry the Granite. Okay, well, that's nice. And also, they have the Tarantul right here as well. So the Pacific Fleet isn't really equipped with a large amount of ocean-going ships. Most of them are basically coastal patrol vessels. And on top of that, the Russian Pacific Fleet would also be understood, at least as far as its actual capital ships, which are the destroyers and the cruiser. They aren't really that modern, and they probably are in a state of disrepair. So as far as the actual tactical abilities that they would be able to enhance the Chinese with, it would be fairly limited. The Chinese would be better off just waiting to build their own brand new ships than to count on the Russians for any real naval support within that area. And the Russian Air Forces, of course, know better for wear. So with that in mind, it does appear that the situation is still ongoing at this moment, but it does appear that the Russians are adding a little bit of nuance into the mix. And a lot of people are taking that nuance and giving their 2 cents on it. Or, I'm sorry, everyone, the penny has actually been discontinued in America. They're actually giving their nickel on this. And so, Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So for whatever it's worth, Russia has vowed today formally to support China in taking Taiwan, or basically getting involved in the situation if it starts escalating. And Russia's warning of possible military intervention if the West tries to protect Taiwan. So Russia, being the peace-loving country they are, and they love to stay out of wars, wants to get involved in another war while they're getting slammed in Ukraine right now. So what are your thoughts about that? 36% said Russia simply bluffing for China to prove their allegiance, while 34% said Russia is mainly testing the U.S. resolve in the situation, and 25% said Russia actually intends real action on Taiwan. So, me personally, I would say Russia really can't afford to take action with Taiwan. First of all, I'm really not sure how they're expecting to take military action because their Navy is kind of a bit screwed right now, to say the least. That's kind of like a bit of an understatement. Also, they are struggling to make enough equipment. They're having to use donkeys and horses because they don't have enough equipment. So I'm not even sure if Russia can provide material support if it came down to it to China to even assist with the Taiwan situation. So unless Russia is threatening nuclear weapons, which they have done millions of times before, then there's really nothing Russia can do. So I would say personally, it's mainly a loyalty test. It's Russia is basically coming out and saying, Xi Jinping, we are loyal to you. Keep supporting and propping up the Russian economy because otherwise we're going to cease as a nation, and we'll at least support you in theory. So I'm with the 36%. It's mainly for funsies and also for loyalty testing. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say there's no way in hell Russia could provide any real support to the Chinese in any way. They're basically getting roughshod right now in Ukraine, and so I don't really think there's a lot that they could do for the Chinese without completely stripping themselves bare in the war in Ukraine, which wouldn't pose them too well at the moment. So I would have to say it's really more so bluffing. I would have to be with 36% to pretend like they can actually do something to help the Chinese, but the reality is that they can't do anything. Also, by the way, I want to make a correction on air because getting stuff wrong bothers me, folks, and I haven't seen anyone correct me on this in the chat, but I do want to clarify this. Earlier in the on stream on air, I said that the Eastern Theater Command had the 91st, 92nd, and 93rd Group Armies. That's actually mistaken. It's the 71st, 72nd, and 73rd Group Armies. I got the numbers mixed up, and I think I was thinking about the Central Theater Command because that would be the one around Beijing, and I think the numbers of those armies are in the 90s. But the Eastern Theater Command Group Armies are only 3, and they're the 71st, 72nd, and 73rd. There are no 90s of any type within the Eastern Theater Command. So just want to make that a little bit clear. Doesn't really matter too much for analysis purposes, but still, I don't like getting little factoids like that incorrect. But anyways, with that, I hope that has addressed the Chinese situation well. And of course, folks, considering this is an ongoing developing situation, we will most likely be breaking multiple times on air from other news stories to be able to circle back to this ongoing development and to be able to cover any additional breaking news that we are getting out of the area at that moment. But moving us on into some other major news that we've been able to hear, we're actually going to be going to the other side of the world, quite literally, all the way over to Venezuela. And that's right, folks, for the hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow. And this is actually a fairly wild development today because it appears that the President of the United States has thrown out a statement that we didn't really expect to hear right now. And it looks like there's actually some credence to it. So to get us into this really quickly, I cannot play all the audio because it's from another podcast, so we don't know if they're going to copyright it or not. But the President of the United States in this audio clip, which I did listen to, and he did say it, apparently claimed that the U.S. carried out a secret strike on land in Venezuela about today or 2 days ago, somewhere within that period of time. And according to the direct transcript of this statement, he stated, and we just talked out, I don't know if you read or saw, they have a big plant or a big facility where the ships come from. 2 nights ago, we knocked that out. So we hit them very hard. While that statement was made on a podcast today, a major explosion and fire broke out at the port of Maracaibo, or Maracaibo, either way you want to pronounce it, in western Venezuela, which seems to be lining up with that statement that was made by the president on the podcast today. Here's a clip of that fire after the explosion occurred at the port of Maracaibo.
Cerquitica de NASA. Si no logran apagar esa verga rápido.
It's a huge dang. Look at that. That's a huge fire. You know, something though that I'm wondering though is because in the podcast, at least from what I heard, it sounded like he mentioned something about a building where they launch boats from. So I don't think this was a boat launching facility, but I mean, it does seem to line up with the time frame though. It seems to match up.
It kind of does. It is at the port. We know that. Apparently, this explosion was somewhere along the actual port face of the city. So it was near to the water. So it may have been the building that was being talked about on the podcast. It may have not been, though. We're not entirely sure, folks. But this is about the best sort of a indicator that the president's statements may have been correct, because this did happen near to a port facility, and it wasn't some sort of a strike or explosion that happened on land. Beyond that, though, we're not entirely sure if this is it. We might get an announcement from the U.S. government here in the future confirming that this may have been the target that was hit, because we haven't heard of any other instance like this happening anywhere along the coastline in Venezuela. But this is a very massive explosion, to say the least, and multiple secondary explosions have been coming from this site throughout the entirety of the clip, pretty much from the exact same spot.
And also, by the way, when we say strikes, this is more of a covert a sabotage strike is a better way to describe it, because if this was a publicized strike, that's something that was carried out by, like, let's say the U.S. Air Force, I think we'd have probably seen officially released footage of it. So this seems like some sort of covert strike by maybe perhaps even CIA ground forces or some type of covert forces by the United States. I'm not totally convinced that this was supposed to be announced in that podcast. And, maybe he misspoke. It didn't sound like he misspoke to me, but it sounds like it wasn't intended to be released, at least according to what my theory is. So a strange way to announce something like that. And also, we still haven't gotten any official corroboration from any other groups of forces about the situation either. So right now, there's a lot of unanswered questions about it, but it seems covert to me. It doesn't seem like a huge strike.
It does seem like it was some form of a covert attack at the moment, and that's what we're believing that it is. This could have been conducted by a wide variety of teams from the United States of America, Delta Force, the CIA, quite literally anyone, especially if it's covert. You could literally get anyone on this and have them do it. I see some people saying that it may have been the SEALs. It's likely, but generally, from what we've been hearing, apparently the current administration and the Department of War, which is still the Department of Defense, is apparently not really that gung-ho to use the SEALs on land. Apparently, they're leaning more towards the idea of using Delta Force to conduct land strikes instead of the SEALs, because apparently they've been using the SEAL teams to conduct strikes, according to their claims, on the narco boats or alleged narco boats within the Caribbean Sea. So that's what we understand at the moment. But moving on out of the Venezuelan news directly on their mainland, we did see that apparently some people are getting a little wise, and they're starting to set up the covers on the fence lines to block the spotters from being able to take pictures of the U.S. forces down there on the island. So it appears that we're not going to be getting a great deal of pictures, especially out of the Aguadilla airport area at the moment in Puerto Rico, because it appears that they're actually going to be covering up most of the perimeter around this airfield so that way no good pictures can be taken to be able to show what kind of U.S. forces are moving into the area. Interestingly enough, folks, most U.S. forces that are in Puerto Rico right now are not even at Aguadilla. They're actually at Roosevelt Roads, which has a decent amount of hills around the area, which pictures can be taken of the airbase from. This is indicating to us that the U.S. is about to move in new assets into the area, and for some reason, these are apparently so sensitive to have information of, they're already going to start closing off the airport's lines of sight from the surrounding areas to make sure that nobody can really know what the U.S. has brought in into the area. This also means that whatever is going to be brought in will probably be brought in under the cover of darkness, so that way no good photographs can be taken of these aircraft when they arrive into the area. We have no clue what they could be. I mean, to be entirely honest with you, there's already F-35s of the U.S. Marine Corps at Roosevelt Roads, and pictures have been taken by the dozens of those aircraft while they've been at Roosevelt Roads. So I have absolutely no clue, folks, when the world could be brought to Aguadilla. But before we get on into our poll here, which is actually talking about the situation in Maracaibo, we do have to return to a moment in East Asia with the ongoing situation with Operation Justice Mission ongoing on by the Chinese. And Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so moving out of our Venezuela news for just a second, I know we have a poll running on it, but we got to jump back to Taiwan because there's a new big development happening right this second. China has expanded the zones where they're going to be conducting these so-called military exercises, and now it looks like it's encompassing almost the entirety of the Taiwan Strait. So some people were speculating that this might be a rehearsal for a blockade of the strait, and it's starting to look like that likely is the case. So we're seeing right now, let me jump back to a different post here. Apparently, the intention behind these exercises is to approach Taiwan in close proximity from different directions, conduct rapid maneuvers, form all-dimensional posture, for whatever that means, and also execute systemic blockade and control. So it looks like based on these new announcements here and these new zones, that likely is the case. So they are basically simulating a full blockade of that area. So that is a big move right there that China is currently making. Unfortunately, have they done that at this scale before, like blockading the strait? Because I can't recall for certain.
No, not at the scale. Operation Joint Sword 2024 was the largest exercise we had seen up until this point, and it didn't really cover the scope or scale that this exercise is covering at the moment. This is far larger.
Yeah, it seems like it. And also, when they announced those initial zones, it did not appear they were going to blockade it. But these other new zones here that are outlined in black on the new version of the map that we have, that is cutting off the Taiwan Strait, essentially. It's basically what that is.
So to show y'all here really quickly, And I want to see if I can get this here for y'all. The largest one that we've ever known of, and here's actually all of the maps of the prior joint swords that have been conducted right here. The ones that are in, let me see here, the ones that are in the purple color, that was Operation Joint Sword 24B, which is from the year of 2024, and it was the second joint sword of the year. That was the largest one that we had ever seen in the number of ships and aircraft involved. And also, notice this, Matthew, the zones that were used were way smaller. They were technically, I think, as numerous or more numerous. I think there were 6 zones involved in 24B, but they were far smaller in scale, and they were not encompassing the entirety of the international waters in the Taiwan Strait. There were large areas of international waters that were still passable. This exercise is, especially with the new warning zones that have been declared, it's quite literally cutting off the entirety of the Taiwan Strait to any form of commercial traffic, either from the north or the south.
Yeah, it seems like the last ones were mainly encirclements. This is also, I guess you could call it an encirclement as well, but it seems more heavily focused to the strait, which is something we haven't seen before. So that has a lot of people concerned right there, because you can see, like you're mentioning, on these old zones right here for the previous Chinese military exercises around the island, they're very thin. Like, it does not come close to the entirety of the width of the strait. These new ones here are essentially barriers. They have a barrier at the north and the south end of the strait. So that is a bit concerning. I will say I'm not prepared to say that they're about to invade or something. We can't say that. That would be reckless to say that. We don't know for a fact yet. But I mean, this is certainly ramping it up a whole nother notch.
It certainly is ramping it up a whole other notch, and I have to say, folks, that just from the sizes of the exclusionary zones that are being made at the moment around Taiwan, this exercise has to be tectonic in scale. We do not have a number of ships involved. I'm sure Taiwanese reconnaissance and U.S. reconnaissance will get a number on that soon, and also the Chinese will publish that number if it's a low-level coercion effort, but it has to be massive. I mean, this Operation Joint Sword 24B, which is the one that we're looking at right here with these zones in red, that included about 120 vessels of the People's Liberation Army Navy and Coast Guard. It was the largest one that we've seen up until this point, and it only required 6 smaller zones around the island of Taiwan. This one has 5 zones. Now it's apparently 7 zones now that have been declared that are literally tectonic. I mean, they are unbelievably large. A single one of these from end to end, east to west, is probably about 150 miles wide, which is unbelievably large. And some of them, especially Zone 5 here, which is the closest one to the Taiwanese shoreline, actually, technically, you can kind of say that Zone 4 over here is one of the closest to the shoreline. I mean, that's literally right on Penghu County. But still, these things are maybe about 300 and 350 miles tall, heading north to south, and about 150 miles wide east to west. These are unbelievably large. I mean, this is truly significant. One thing I will note, though, folks, is that apparently that Japanese buildup at the Yonaguni Island, near to the area of the smaller, if I'm not mistaken, let me go get those islands, the smaller Senkaku Islands, has apparently put a little bit of leeriness into the Chinese, because none of their exclusionary zones right now are getting anywhere close to the Yonaguni Island, which in 2024B, they actually did get fairly close to the Yonaguni Island. This time, they're giving it a wider breadth. They're about 150 miles to 200 miles away in every direction from Yonaguni, but the Senkaku Islands, which are right up here where my mouse cursor is at, those are only about 100 miles away or so from the nearest exclusionary zone, which would be Zone 1. So, that is quite interesting to say the least.
Indeed. And also, by the way, I want to point out something else. I just noticed some other eagle-eyed people on Twitter actually saw this before I did. Apparently, in one of these posters that China put out, they put an Arleigh Burke class ship, a U.S. ship, apparently on the poster. I just realized that now after someone pointed that out. And they have a missile or a spear, a fiery spear or something going right into it. So they've got American ships on their poster here that apparently they're attacking in this propaganda image here. So, I mean, it's clearly China's pissed off, to say the least, and they're also sending a little subtle message right there to China. And also, they have a spear going into an inchworm on the island there, which some are speculating could be the Taiwanese leadership right there, that are apparently depicted as the green inchworms on the island.
I gotta say, Chinese propaganda's ass. Like, this is terrible looking. Where did they get any of this? Dude, I think they literally hired some guy from India to make this, man, because this looks like something you get off of like Fiverr for like $20.
Man, it's honestly it's pretty rough. Like this is some pretty rough advertisements here. Really cartoonish looking, and also the worms or snakes or whatever they are that they've hit there. They're hitting them with like bows and arrows and stuff. It's almost AI generated.
Yeah, it almost is. Apparently, folks, the phrase straight as an arrow doesn't exist in China because all of these arrows are bent quite significantly, which is not really good for their terminal velocity or trajectory when firing them from a bow. So, apparently, in China, archery is not a strong suit of the propagandists. I also got to say, these worms are actually original. Each one of them is different to some extent. I got to be honest with y'all though, this is an absolutely terrible propaganda clip. One thing they did get right though, at least as far as targeting the Republic of China, is that they did get an Oliver Hazard Perry PNG in there, which is technically basically their flagships of the Navy. There they are right there, and you can actually see that they did get that one in the poster. But this one is actually the whole number 1,108, which I don't believe that they have a 1,108. They don't. So that's apparently a U.S. Oliver Hazard Perry that they got a PNG of right there. Still got the class right, technically. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, correction, everyone. This is actually a Kid class destroyer. What the hell am I talking about, folks? For some reason, this looks like an Oliver Hazard Perry to me. It's a Kid class. Sorry, big mistake right there. But they did put an Arleigh Burke down at the bottom, and the Taiwanese do not have a single Arleigh Burke. So very interesting to hear. We also have footage coming out at this very moment from the Chinese. So let's take a little look at that and see what we've got. Oh, and they got the hip-hop music playing with us, man. They're really getting, like, hype with us. So it appears that they're showing off the assets of the People's Liberation Army Rocket Forces, Air Forces, Navy, and also all of the combined arms forces in one clip. There was a J-11. Here's a Chinese TikToker telling y'all how great the CCP is.
On a low budget, they're out here like acting like YouTube bloggers or something. They're holding like the little remote microphones in their hand and stuff. It's like, what is this?
Ah, yes, everyone. I see that the Paris 2020 Accords are being held up quite well in China. The entire air around this area is turned to a solid pitch black. Not because it's nighttime, but because of the smoke being emitted from that AWACS aircraft right there. That looks more polluting than a B-52. When you see them reciting the slogans of Chairman Mao. And also firing the AK-630, which is basically their equivalent of a Sea-Whiz. It's not really an AK-630. They have a different name for it in China, but it's basically the same thing. And we also
they dedicate these exercises to the Evergrande collapse of 2023 or 24, whenever it happened.
big rip right there. Man, honestly, man, they're going to be bringing down the roof just like the Evergrande collapse did. Man, I got to tell you, that tofu drag, folks, it holds up well. And also the economic policy built around tofu drag holds up quite well. But this is the first footage that we've gotten, actually, from the Chinese side, which I believe would have been published by the PLA-SSF, if I'm not mistaken. They're generally the people who do this. So a little bit interesting with that, but let's break it down, folks. Let's break it down to what we see. First, we see what appears to possibly be a DF-21 of the People's Liberation Army rocket forces. We then see a radar being set up for air defense systems, most likely operated either by the PLAA or the PLARF. We can then see a J-11, I believe that would be a J-11B of the People's Liberation Army Air Force. We can then see them showing the inside of a Chinese vessel. Then a myriad of clips, one of the J-20, another of a J-11, another of one of their AWACS aircraft, unfortunately don't know the designation, and then what appears to be a Type 56 on the right. I don't know what the one on the left is. We can also see them showing the J-11 again, and also the sky. Damn, okay, they hit that drum line hard. We now see them doing the quick pan while this guy's holding the McDonald's microphone in the background. Apparently he's the fire commander on board the vessel. And also, I believe that that's a Corvette right there. PLN Navy ships. Let me go find out the class of that ship right there. This is giving us at least a little bit of an idea of what the Eastern Theater Command is throwing around right now. So, let's go... Damn, they've got a lot of subs. Let's go get a look. The Type 55. That's not a Type 55. This is definitely like a Corvette of some sort. It's not a Type 52 either. Dang.
Also, by the way, like fast forward or jump around this clip right here. They look at it looks like a projector screen or something on the wall. Find that if you can, this clip real quick, if you can jump around in it, because there's something interesting written on that projector board in Chinese. I'm trying to get a translation on it real quick.
So let's go take a look really quickly. Let's see here. The
It's like
projector.
a yellow projector board in this thing. They jump to a projector board here in a second somewhere in this thing. Might be near the beginning, perhaps.
Yeah, it might be near the beginning. Let's go back and see.
There's something interesting written on the board here. I'm trying to double check this though before I say there. Stop it right there. Okay, so it does match up to the video. So apparently that on the board right there that they're currently filming in this video, that apparently reads in Chinese. It says complete unification of the motherland. It must be achieved and it will be achieved. That's what's written right there on that projector board on the side right there. At least according to the translation that I'm seeing right now.
It's probably accurate. That sounds like a Communist Party slogan because their slogans are pretty direct. I mean, there's not really a lot of creativity in them. So that sounds a lot like a Communist Party slogan that they would put out. So that appears to be the poster on the wall. And also, folks, we did find a designation for that vessel that we saw here, this part of the clip. Let me show that to y'all again. Actually, it was back here. This vessel is actually, from what we can find, it is apparently a Type 54 frigate. It appears that the whole profile matches, so it's not one of the larger vessels of the Chinese Navy that was involved, at least in that clip. It does have some VLS cells. It's basically what the Constellation class frigate would have been if we actually followed through with building those, but this is what we apparently were seeing in the clip. So we're also assuming that any of the footage made by the People's Liberation Army Navy in that entire montage was probably also made on board this Type 54 frigate. So that's what we're assuming at the moment. But that's the only footage that we've gotten so far from the Chinese side, and we're also going to be waiting for any additional footage from the Taiwanese side as well, or either side, depending on who publishes it first. So with that, hopefully we're able to cover that breaking news well. And before we move on out of our Venezuelan news, at least for a moment, because we've generally covered everything within this area today, I do want to make sure that we address a little poll, because it appears that a lot of people are talking about the claim that the President of the United States made that apparently the U.S. had struck a large facility within Venezuela that was made for launching the supposed narco-terrorist boats. And a lot of people are wondering whether that's true or not. Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so let's jump back to this other monumental story right now out of Venezuela that somehow the U.S. official, or at least one U.S. official, allegedly leaked out, either on purpose or by accident, that a covert strike had occurred on a big facility apparently used for launching boats off the coast of Venezuela. So what are your thoughts? 53% said it sounds about right and likely true, while 24% said we definitely need more info on this first, and only 15% said it sounds exaggerated and I'm not buying it. So we do see in the video that we have, there appears to be around the date when this allegedly occurred, a massive explosion that was unexplained right on the coast in Maracaibo, or Maracaibo, however you say it. We do see that there apparently in the video clip. So it seems to line up. It is plausible. And also, I don't think they meant to leak that out. It might have been an accident, or perhaps it was a covert way of saying it, maybe perhaps on the podcast. But I would say I'm with the 53%. It sounds about right and likely true, because we had heard before that the U.S. was going to send in forces on the ground secretly into Venezuela, conduct sabotage attacks, and then maybe follow that up with land strikes using the Air Force. Right now, we haven't seen the land strikes, but we have seen the covert sabotage, if you can believe the statement. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say it might be correct. I have to say I'm kind of on the fence, though, folks, because the president has a way with words to where a lot of the stuff he says isn't necessarily true, often, if not at all. So for that reason, I mean, this could have happened because it seems that there's footage that's lining up that would indicate it may have happened, but at the same time, a lot's said and it's not even true. I mean, we're going to get into that later on when we get back into Southeast Asia in our news segment here in a little bit, and he, took credit for a peace deal that the U.S. wasn't even involved in between Thailand and Cambodia today. So, I don't know. Like, I would have to say, I'm kind of on the fence. May it happen, may it not. I think we're going to have to get better confirmation or statements from the U.S. government to confirm it, though, in my opinion. But with that, I hope that does address it the best we can. And covering our American news, just the last little bit that we have, this actually happened near Alaska, but I put the marker down here in the Bahamas so that way you could see it and remember to show it to y'all. We actually saw that a Russian aircraft today head-butted a F-16 that was intercepting a Tu-95 near to the Alaska ADIZ and got incredibly close to a mid-air collision. So take a look. And there it is. I'm not gonna lie, that's
Russia flying like they know what they're doing out here. It's like they don't know what they're doing that good enough to, do something that reckless.
yeah, and I mean that's pretty damn aggressive as well. I mean, it was so aggressive it actually got the F-16 to react and almost start rolling defensively to try and not get in a collision with the Su-30. I gotta say, I just find it a little bit odd that this stuff is happening right in our ADIZ up in Alaska, and then the president wants to say that the Russians have nothing but good hopes for Ukraine, and that the Russians want to have good dealings with us. It's like they basically almost killed a pilot of the Air Force today in Alaska. It's like, how in the world can we say that these people have good intentions when this is the aggressive policy that the Russian Air Force is working off of, when they're getting incredibly close to violating our actual airspace? But moving on from that, and on out of that area, it's time for us to move on and over into the area of Southeast Asia, because we now have to get to the big news down here. Not the Taiwan-China news, but the Thailand-Cambodia news. As we have been able to hear that after Thailand and Cambodia negotiated their ceasefire between the two of them, and apparently, folks, I'm being told that that's old footage of the Alaskan ADIZ incident. I hadn't seen it before, and considering that someone stated that it happened today, I took it at face value. So we'll look into that off air and see if it is older footage, but at the moment I've just never seen that before, so it looked new to me. But anyways, moving on from that and on down into the area of Bangkok, Thailand, after Thailand and Cambodia did negotiate their ceasefire and finally brought a cessation to the hostilities in the casino war, which you could see the representatives of Thailand and Cambodia signing the generally the ceasefire right here in this picture. And I do want to make it clear, folks, very clear, that the U.S. and Malaysia were not involved in this process at all the second time around. During the 7-Eleven war, they were involved in the process because we got directly involved. In the second war, which is the casino war, which just rounded out right now, the United States stated that they were going to get involved, otherwise they were going to levy tariffs, and Thailand, specifically Newton Charnavarakul, who's the Prime Minister of Thailand, told the United States to kiss their ass and get lost, and they weren't going to be listening to the United States worth a damn, and if the Cambodians wanted to negotiate an end to this conflict, then they were going to have to reach out to the Thai directly instead of going through an intermediary like Malaysia through Ibrahim. So, the U.S. was not involved in this peace talk at all. I want to make that incredibly clear. They were not involved in it at all. Even the Secretary of State yesterday announced that the United States was not involved at all through this statement. The United States welcomes the announcement from Cambodia and Thailand on reaching a ceasefire following the General Border Committee meeting. So the U.S. was not involved in this at all yesterday. The president has now come out today, and I'm not trying to make this political here, folks. We just have to address this because it is the news. This is what the president had to make as an announcement today. I'm pleased to announce that the breakout fighting between Thailand and Cambodia will stop momentarily, and they'll go back to living in peace as per our recently agreed to original treaty. I want to congratulate both great leaders on their brilliance in coming to this rapid and very fair conclusion. It was fast and decisive, as all of these situations should be. The United States of America, as always, was proud to help. And with all of the wars and conflicts I've settled and stopped over the last 8 months, perhaps the United States has become the real United Nations, which have been of very little assistance or help in any of them, including the disaster going on between Russia and Ukraine. The United Nations must start getting active and involved in world peace. I just want to make it fairly clear, though, that the United States did not help at all in the second ceasefire. Like, none. Like, they were literally told to stay out, and we did because nobody allowed us to even get involved. So I don't really know what he's talking about with the proud to help thing, because they didn't help out at all in the second situation. So with that, we have been able to see that since the ceasefire is in effect at the moment and there is no active fighting that we've been able to hear of right now, there has been footage published, however, by both sides, as they're still trying to catch up on all the combat activity that was happening in those final hours of the war. And we actually have a little bit of additional footage to show all of y'all right now. But before we move on into that, though, I do want to say that this fundraiser has reached a whopping $1,441 raised for Razum for Ukraine. Holy moly!
That's fantastic, honestly. It's actually over halfway there.
Man, it is over halfway there. We're getting close to that fundraiser goal, folks. And I do have to say that there's been a huge amount of people watching so far tonight. I hope that y'all continue to watch because, of course, we still have a lot of huge news to cover, including the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and elsewhere around the world. But before we get on into that, though, I do want to give a huge shout out to all of our top donors, and I wish that we could give a shout out to each and every one of y'all, whether y'all threw in $1 or hundreds of dollars, because each and every single one of y'all is helping this fundraiser to get to where it is right now. And so, Matthew, who are the top donors of the fundraiser so far?
All right, so far we have had a $150 donation from Tom S, as well as a 100 from Greg Carrier, and a 100 from Bobby, also known as
Hey!
LC39A, as well as a 100 from Hal Rose and Joseph Carr and Howard Mendelson, and then we had a 75 from Daryl Barkhouse, as well as a 50 from Smarzig, as well as a 50 from Goth Alice, as well as Chef Danny B, Old Warrior, Mark Ead, and Samuel Sizamonski. And a huge shout out to our top donors so far, and also, if I somehow missed you, which it is possible tonight because there's a lot of news that we're tracking right now, and I might have missed your donation coming in. If it's over $50, shout it to me, and I will give you a shout out on the stream to make sure that we give you, of course, your credit for that massive donation, by the way. But also a huge shout out to everybody who's also throwing in any type of donation to the fundraiser, because of course it is helping Ukraine, and the Ukrainians appreciate it, and also we appreciate it as well that we can help raise more funds on the channel. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta say, humongous thanks to everyone who's been supporting the fundraiser so far, and I hope that people continue to support because we are going to hit that $2,500 goal. Because the Lee Spring Army has never missed a goal in the entirety of the channel's history, and I have to say a humongous shout out to everyone who's been supporting the fundraiser tonight, both big and small, because every single one of y'all have come together to get us to that whopping total of $1,510 that we're at right now. So a humongous thanks to everyone once again for helping to support this fundraiser, because all of that support is going to be going over to Ukraine through Razom to be able to help out civilians that are in incredibly tight straits and difficult conditions given the current situation with the war. So a humongous thanks to all of y'all so much once again. And also, before we move on, folks, we are going to take 3 questions from the chat. Tonight is the Sunday night fundraiser, so you can throw in a question and have it answered free of charge. No pay to play. It's not pay to play anyways. We still answer live chats, but tonight there is no super chats. It's only live chats. And tonight, folks, I'm very proud to say that we have not taken a single super chat over the Sunday night. It's like getting back to origins, getting back to tradition. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping to our first question of the night, this one is going to go to none other than Varig, who said, what do you both think the response will be from the White House to China's movements? And on my side of things, I would say personally, don't expect much, because if this remains a exercise, even though this is an extreme exercise, I think the United States will let this one slide, because they were probably expecting something to happen, because the $11 billion that was approved to Taiwan, that was naturally going to be escalatory. Even though I do support it, I was expecting China to do something about it, and we're currently seeing the very, very pissed off reaction from China right now. So if China does not actually attack Taiwan, the U.S. will ignore it, and probably honestly they're wise to ignore it since it wasn't actually an attack. So we'll have to wait and see though, but don't expect much. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say I don't really think a lot's going to be coming out of this either. The current U.S. administration, a lot like the prior one, isn't really that big on actively asserting our interests globally, including those within foreign nations. So for that reason, it's likely that nothing might happen. Even if a war happened, there might be a lot of waffling on what to do to support Taiwan, even in that instance. So I would have to say probably don't expect much. Maybe a U.S. response like China needs to calm down through the Department of State will be made, basically an unhappy letter, but that'll be about it probably. I wouldn't expect too much to come out of it, really. But I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the second question of this segment.
Also, by the way, we're currently hearing word that apparently a U.S. drone may be approaching Taiwan right now. I'm trying to see here. Shout out to Volinger for letting me know that. They said that there's a drone near Taiwan towards the south on flight radar. I'm currently trying to locate that right now. Let's see here. I think I just spotted it. And yes, I did. I just spotted it. It is an MQ-4C Triton, a U.S. Air Force drone that is currently right off the southern tip of Taiwan. And it looks like it was just flying over the area where one of those zones was issued toward the southern end of the strait. And it's currently doing a bit of a pattern around that area. So the U.S. is monitoring the situation. That is confirmation that they're currently looking at the ship deployment right now. But that is all we know. Right now, that's all the U.S. is doing is that one drone deployment, as far as we can tell on flight radar.
And it does appear that that is ongoing at the moment. The drone is at an altitude of 48,000 feet, traveling at a speed of 340 knots, and it appears to be moving at warp speed at this point towards the Philippines. So I'm not really sure if the data reporting is accurate on exactly where its location is, but it appears to be somewhere in between some of the zones that have been declared by the Chinese for the naval exercise. So I'm very certain we'll probably hear some sort of a small addendum or update on the situation by the U.S. Department of defense here in the near future after they gather some information on what's going on within that area. So with that, I thank you so much for sharing that with us. And with that, we're going to be moving on into, I believe, the final question of this segment. So what do we got, Matthew?
And this one goes to Sid, who said, out of curiosity, if the Taiwan war started right now and they needed more help than Ukraine, would the Sunday night fundraiser ever change?
Let's see. And what do they mean by that? Like, as far as who's being supported, or like how large the goal is, or what do they mean?
I think they mean like changing it to a charity that supports Taiwan, humanitarian things.
Oh, yeah, we have done that in the past. Like, every single Sunday night fundraiser isn't always for a Ukrainian nonprofit. Like, for example, in the LA wildfires, or more so in the LA fires, we actually ran a fundraiser for the Los Angeles Fire Department for them to be able to raise funds for equipment needed to fight the fires. When it came to Israel being attacked on October 7th of 2023, we actually ran a fundraiser for the Friends of the IDF. And we've actually run a couple of different fundraisers from time to time for different locations and different places that have been generally hot points throughout the world. So yes, we actually would run some nonprofits in support of Taiwan if that war did start. So I hope that does address that well. And with that, folks, we're actually going to be moving on out of the question segment and back into our news, because we still have a lot to cover and little time to cover it. So moving us back into Thailand and Cambodia, let's go over the footage that has been coming out today, but is not from today. So basically, it's kind of like archival footage, but it's giving us a very interesting look at those last days, or last day of the war before the ceasefire went into effect yesterday. We got another clip of the Cambodians defending their positions. We're not going to show the whole thing, it's 6 minutes long, but we will show you all a little bit of it, just to get another laugh at the Cambodians. Okay, this guy's got the Baofeng, man, with the antenna. Like, that thing is like 4 feet long. I think he's about to hip fire. Oh, no, he's not hip firing the machine gun. It appears that he's got a jam. He's trying to clear the jam while staying completely exposed. Oh, he's finally firing the machine gun. Cambodian, I gotta say, that bright red there, Matthew, that's a great camo.
That's a bad idea.
Man, it's like, there they are! Where? That guy in the bright red! Get him! It's like, dude, that's terrible. As you could see, normal Cambodian shenanigans, as usual. Moving on from that, we've also been able to see another clip showing a Thai M48 in operation against the Cambodians. We actually very rarely ever saw footage from armor operations on the Thai side during this entire conflict, or from either side for that matter. So this was actually a very rare clip, apparently from the last day of the war before the ceasefire went into effect. Oh! If y'all are wondering, what is an M48A5? Let me go show y'all an M48A5 from Thailand. Let me go get a picture of that really quickly to show y'all what they're actually using, what their equipment is. It is actually this tank right here. Which was actually in service for the United States during the Korean War. That's how old this tank is. It's a fairly interesting one. The Thai have modified theirs to a great degree. They actually have the M48A5, and it does include, I believe, a gun stabilizer and a few other things, but basically it is the T-55 equivalent in the Western world. So it's not incredibly advanced. So basically it's another Korean War era or Vietnam era antique that's being used. But it's quite effective against the Cambodians. The Cambodians don't have anything better. But you see them continuing to fire high explosive rounds into the tree line with a 105mm main gun. We now see them rolling it through the jungle bush to get closer to the Cambodian positions. And let's go Espen Turgenhausen, who just threw in 1,000 Norwegian kroner and has gotten the fundraiser up to $1,742. As you can see, jungle environments are just not conducive to tank usage at all. You can see here, it's almost a death trap for this tank. But we're generally going to be ending this clip right here because the rest of it's just basically the M48A5 rolling around and firing at Cambodian positions point blank. And we have one last clip to show y'all, which is also somewhat interesting, which is actually showing that apparently at some point on the very last day of the conflict, the Preah Vihear Temple took a direct artillery hit from Thai artillery forces. Apparently showing that there is some damage to the temple at this point by Thai artillery. We don't know how extensive it is, but we could see a direct hit in the middle of the temple grounds. Moving on from that, though, we are going to be getting on out of the Thailand-Cambodia war and moving on over, folks, into the middle of the East. And y'all would think that today the Israelis and the Iranians are probably going to be the top story. You would be mistaken. It's actually Syria. Syria is devolving once again into another conflict. Y'all wouldn't believe it. I mean, could you believe it, Matthew? Syria falling into chaos in a different way, literally just days after the last time?
Honestly, I was expecting it, to be perfectly honest. It was just a matter of time. It's a powder keg there. And nobody's really sure who's going to be the main aggressor here. Nobody's really sure. Today, it seems to be mainly the civilians are the aggressor.
It does appear that it is actually now the civilians, folks, of the Alawite Coast that are now the rebels of today. So as many of y'all know, just let's give a lay of the land. The area in white on this map, and also in gray, is generally under the loose control of the Syrian Interim Government, led by the former HTS, which its leader is al-Jilani. The area in green is the Syrian Free Army, supported by the United States and the UAE. Down here in purple is the Druze, supported by the Israelis. Up here in green, that's the Turks, supported by the Turks. And then up here in yellow, that's the Syrian Democratic Forces, generally kind of supported by the United States, although it's not really that strong of a support these days. Over here, though, on the coastline, in the red little areas that you can hardly see, those areas are actually zones of civil dissent, or generally rebel control, or some sort of rebel attempted control. We also know that ISIS controls a decent amount of areas like Palmyra and the highway around Idlib, apparently, at the moment. But today, we now are starting to hear that there was an uprising once again on the Alawite coast. Now, I showed you all of the factions, but I also have to show you all the ethnic map of Syria, because this is also what is more important for today's sake. So let me go and get y'all to that and give y'all a little bit of a breakdown. So, this is the ethnic breakdown of the entirety of Syria. Over here in red, which is the area that we care about today. We're not going to go over every ethnic group within this area. We're just going to go over the one in red. The one in red is the Alawite Arabs. They're technically different than the majority of the country, which is in green, which are the Sunni Arabs. This means that there's some decent cultural and religious tensions between the two groups, because while they're both Islamic, they do not believe in generally the same forms of theories or doctrines of Islam, and also they have some different cultural customs as well. This leads to a decent amount of tensions, especially with the former Assad regime, which was headed by a Sunni Arab, which generally put down the Alawites, and currently al-Jilani, who is also a Sunni Arab, is kind of putting down everyone who's not a Sunni Arab within the Syrian Interim Government's area of control. This has led to the Alawite coastline conducting a rebellion just about 2 months after al-Jilani took control of most of the country, and that was then met with immediate massacres and genocides by Syrian Interim Government forces. A lot of the incidents that were even caught on film, we cannot describe because they were too heinous even for YouTube. But we did see today, apparently, they conducted another uprising. uprising, and there were clashes in basically every major port city and town along the coast. In Jabla, Latakia, and Tardis, there were ongoing clashes, riots, and firefights happening in every city. So here are some of the clips that we got from the port of Tardis, or I'm sorry, Latakia. You see the Syrian Interim Government forces moving in with rifle fire sporadically happening through the streets. We can then additionally see in another clip more of the active firefight. Moving on out of that.
Seems a little chaotic out there, honestly. Seems like it's pure chaos again. It's like, is it just the Syrian government shooting at the rioters or the protesters, or is there somebody shooting back? Because I couldn't tell.
Apparently, the Syrian Interim Government, for as good as we can believe them, which they have a very colorful history of basically lying about a lot of stuff, they are saying that apparently there were some armed gunmen that they were firing at, but other footage from the area doesn't really lead us to believe that all too well. They did go and arrest a large group of children in the area today that were apparently involved in a protest in the city. You can see that in this clip right here. And also in other areas, we saw that there were basically no gunmen, but it was more so protests, and it appears that they were conducting attacks on the protesters. So we're not really sure if there was an armed uprising in this area, or if it was just open protests against the Jelani government. Either way, we know that the Jelani government is a government of barbarians that rule with an iron fist, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that these were just protests, and they responded with open gunfire. That's highly likely. This was in the town of Jabali, by the way. Moving on from that clip and further on down and towards the town of Tardis, we also were able to hear reports and sounds of heavy gunfire within the area. But before we get to that, I do have to give a massive shout out to the $200 donation that just came in from an anonymous donor. Holy moly! That's
going crazy out here. Anonymous coming in here, throwing in such big bucks. Look at that, throwing it over a $2,000 raise. We're only about $490 away from the goal right now. That's crazy work.
Man, I gotta say, absolutely crazy, dubious work, incredible, amazing, unbelievable, and hopefully we will see that the $2,500 goal will be reached very soon. But with that, it's time for us to take a look at the heavy gunfire that broke out in Tardis, Syria today as well. We don't know who's filming this, by the way. We don't know if this is the Syrian Interim Government or if this is the rebels that the Syrian Interim Government claims they're fighting. We actually don't know, so this could be anyone. We can see them running and yelling and firing. And here are more firefights happening throughout the city streets. Heavy firefights, for that matter. We now see the cameraman running again.
Honestly, it just looks to me like a bunch of guys firing up in the air. But like, it looks like most of them have their guns pointed up toward the sky and they're just firing randomly.
Man, you know, I actually heard, man, that Abu Hassan's in town, and I was hearing in the distance off in this video, "You better lock up your doors today, because Abu Hassan is on his way." I was like, oh, damn. I was like, no way. Man, it's Abu Hassan and his band of 40 thieves.
It's like, did the Syrian people and the government not understand? Like, think calm thoughts. Like, don't go out in the streets with, automatic AKs firing randomly into the sky. It's like, that's probably not good for stability of the country. It's like, probably not the best thing. I think this might actually be the HTS, or they're now known as the Syrian government, formerly known as the HTS terror group, but now known as the government. I think that might be them.
I think it is. I think it might be those guys actually, because I'll tell y'all, folks, I have an absolutely terrible opinion at this point of the Syrian Interim Government, which is what they're technically called now. They used to be the HTS, and before that they were Al Qaeda, and they kind of almost were ISIS, but then al-Baghdadi, who's the leader of ISIS, gave them a little writ to go make their own little mini Al Qaeda in northwest Syria. So that's basically who's running the country, and they run it like barbarians. They run it like you would imagine Al Qaeda would. It's absolutely horrendous, and I'll be entirely honest with y'all. While I say that in foreign policy, it doesn't really matter the internal situation of other countries, we just look at them for the position that we take, considering that this is a radical Islamic government, and that clearly means they look at the United States as a mortal enemy to their existence, this isn't a government that we want to align ourselves with, and on top of that, morally speaking, they're heinous. I mean, they're absolutely heinous, but we'll get back to watching the rest of this clip. Oh, this guy was apparently out shopping for some bread. And then this guy behind him was apparently out shopping for some lead. That's a Dr. Seuss hook. Well, Dr. Seuss book. Some people were buying bread, others were shopping for lead. But
He said, can I trade you this Subway sandwich for a safe passage? Here's a foot long.
Yeah.
Now, say that's not what you're supposed to say to the people. You're not supposed to go around screaming that. You're supposed to say, hey, excuse me, sir, could you please show me your license? It's not supposed to be, get on the ground, man, get on the ground. It's like, you don't have to be so crazy. You don't have to be like this. It's not a necessity. It's totally optional.
Bruh, these guys are the security forces conducting a firefight in a city market with a Glock 17 wearing what appears to be some sort of rip-off Adidas shoes in all black. I gotta be honest.
How are the people supposed to even know if these guys are legit or not? It's like, it's like there's no way to know if these guys are legit. It's like they could be the HTS, they could be the government, they could be just the thugs on the corner. You never know. It's like you don't know who these guys are.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? We don't even really know who the hell these guys are, really. I mean, it's just absolute insanity in Syria. But it does appear that Jelani is going out and apparently dishing it out in terms of punishment to the Alawite Arabs of the coastline again. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
All right. So apparently they sent tanks into the cities as well. Unfortunately, we can't show all the videos because some of them got horrific. There were apparently casualties. Some of these groups, and we're guessing it's the Syrian government, fired directly into a crowd of protesters, and there were a lot of casualties. So once again, unfortunately, the civilians in Syria are getting mowed down by the regime there. Seems like Assad is basically back again in a new form. So the civilians are not in a good way under Jelani or pretty much anybody that's been in charge of Syria at this point. So, oh my
Damn,
God, look at that. Nicholas Condor just
we hit the goal!
Ukraine,
Breaking news! Breaking news!
That's crazy.
Yeah, we hit the goal!
The goal! It's been hit. Look!
Look, it's hit! A goal! Unbelievable. Nicholas Condor threw in a $350 Canadian donation, and we have now hit the fundraiser goal. I gotta say, it's truly an amazing night. Oh my God, ARP Bob just threw in a 300.
Bob! What the hell is going on?
Good golly. They hitting the goal and going well beyond it. We're now at $2.8 thousand raised, $2,830 raised. That is truly profound and unbelievable. And I gotta say, a humongous shout out and thanks to everyone who's been a part of the Lee Spring Army for helping to see that this fundraiser hits the goal. It's been another crazy night once again, and we always have to give a big shout out to all the folks in the LSA who make these fundraisers a reality, and not only make it a reality, but make hitting the goal a definite certainty every single weekend. And so a humongous thanks to y'all once again. And Matthew, I understand that you were talking about Jelani and basically how it's like the return of Assad, and what were you saying about that?
Yes, it's the ghost of Assad. It turns out that whoever possesses the Syrian palace there inside the capital ends up being inhabited by the demonic ghost of Assad and all prior past rulers who don't treat the civilians right. So Jelani's the next one. And also, it's not too... Oh my God,
Damn!
Look at that! 333 from Hal Rose.
333!
I can't even get through this poll. It's coming in so fast, I can't even keep up with it. That's $3,200 right there on the fundraiser. So it's now about $700 above the goal. That's crazy work right there. But back to the ghost inhabiting Jelani, though. Right now, the ghost is chaos, and Jelani is chaos too. So I don't know how much longer this is going to last, to be perfectly honest with you folks, because the U.S. is trying to take a pro-Jelani stance in the hopes of getting influence over Syria. I don't know if that was a good idea. So originally, it looked like maybe Jelani was going to turn a new leaf. Some people called it naive, and honestly, the people that call that naive, they were correct in the end. I will admit that they were right. Jelani being a former terrorist, some people say still a current one, depending on who you ask, but now he's the legitimate government inside of Syria. Just because he's in charge doesn't erase the past. Just like the Taliban, who are now in charge of Afghanistan, they're still the Taliban. They're just in charge now. So they still have the entire nasty past that they had previously, and Jelani is no different. So me personally, I'm with the 52%. I think Jelani is once again resorting back to his old ways, his old tactics. This is all he knows. He's operated this way for a long time. That's why there was literally a bounty out for him, because the U.S. was trying to deal with the situation because he was terrorizing people, and he's doing it to the civilians now. So, you know, it is what it is. Unfortunately, poor old Syria will never be right, at least in the short term. Maybe in the long term it can be turned around, but it's a tough one. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta say, Jelani is back to being Abu Hassan and his band of 40 thieves for sure. Basically, a terrorist running a state at this point, without a doubt. And that's what we're seeing right now on the coastline with the Alawite Arabs, the Druze in southern Syria, and the SDF and the Kurds up in northeast Syria. They're doing this to everyone everywhere that's not a Sunni Arab. And I saw someone say, right, you said he was a good guy last year. No, I didn't. I said he might be a good guy. He's at least saying good things. Let's give it a month or two and see where it goes. And then within a month, he conducted the massacre on the Alawite Arabs, and I was like, this guy's not a good guy. This is literally Assad, but just in a different form. This is not a good thing, and we should not get behind this. And so we gave it a little bit, because the guy was saying a whole bunch of great things that sounded good in theory, like uniting all of the Syrian peoples under a singular government that would respect all of their interest, cultures, and traditions, which he then didn't do, literally off the bat. And then on top of that, he also went and started to conduct massacres basically within the month. So we gave him that little breadth of room to see if he was going to be a good guy, and then he was not. So then we completely changed our opinion on him from, he might be okay, to he's absolutely terrible. And we've stayed on that since then. He is definitely back to his tactics again inside of Syria, and I'll be honest with you all, the U.S. government should not align themselves with a leader like this. We're going to end up having everyone in Syria hate us. Because we're supporting a government that is literally a terrorist force at this point against the people of the country. So if we want to,
isn't it strange? Isn't it strange how the turntables happen, the tables turn, and things like that? That previously it was Russia that supported the ruling party inside of Syria, which was the Assad regime. Assad, of course, was known for carrying out all kinds of nasty, horrific attacks using gas and chemicals like sarin, and doing horrible war crimes to his own people. So he left behind a terrible legacy, and the Syrians hate the Russians for that reason. Now it seems like the United States has said, well, actually, let us become the Russians. We're going to support Jelani, who's now apparently going to conduct bad activities inside of Syria. He hasn't quite gotten to the level of Assad yet by using chemical weapons, but give him some time, he might get there based on how it's going right now. So it seems like the U.S. basically took Russia's place as becoming the new boogeyman for Syria at this point.
Yeah, I would have to say, not a good position for us to be in at all. As Cerberus 3 just threw in a 200. Holy moly!
Oh.
Holy Christ heavens! We've gotten up to almost $3.4 thousand raised, folks. We were almost not about to hit the goal tonight, and then we've blown well past it, and now we're $1,000 above it nearly. That's truly incredible. And a big shout out to Cerberus 3 for throwing in that 200. But I definitely have to agree with you, Enforcer Matt. That's not going to be a good position. And I see some people saying, well, you have to back up the strong. No, you don't. We don't back up the Russians in Ukraine. Why the hell would we back up Assad? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. It's like the SDF would be a far better group to run the country than this guy is. That's for sure. I mean, hell, at this point, a Syrian civil war, a second one's guaranteed. This guy's going to keep on shooting everyone that's not a Sunni Arab to the point they all get tired of the guy and they rise up against him just like they did Assad. That's sort of the whole reason the first civil war started, is because Assad would go around having the military shoot anyone that wasn't a Sunni Arab, and the Sunni Arabs included. Then they all rose up and started the civil war, and eventually Assad's government was crushed. And then, this time, though, instead of Russia being the boogeyman of Syria, where everyone in Syria hates Russia, everyone's going to hate us in the United States because we're backing some guy who's clearly a cutthroat and a bandit that's running the country at this point. So Not a good idea, in my opinion, at all for U.S. foreign policy in this area. But moving on from that, also we have a 50 from Chef Danny B. Oh,
Damn, let's go.
man, the official chef of the LSA isn't only cooking them good dishes, he's cooking up a good fundraiser, and he's gotten us up to $3,413 on this fundraiser. Truly incredible. And so with that, folks, we're going to be getting on to the rest of our news from the Middle East today. It's not Syria. We have been able to hear that the Israelis are apparently finally deploying the Iron Beam. This was supposed to be deployed back in, I think, early 2024, but it's apparently going to finally be deployed sometime right now. So we don't know exactly when, but apparently very soon. Also, the Wing of Zion is flying on down. Clearly they have no religious connections in Israel, calling their Air Force One the Wing of Zion. But apparently, Netanyahu is flying down to Mar-a-Lago, basically, to present to the president evidence that Iran is successfully reviving its ballistic missile program and will ask for a green light for new attacks against Iran during their meeting on Monday. So that's apparently what's going to be going on tomorrow, as the Wing of Zion has landed inside of West Palm Beach. Outside of that, the Iranian government is apparently dealing with protests inside of Tehran. We do not know how big they are and how much is really developing there, but apparently there are some form of protests going on in the capital. Outside of that,
Apparently it's pretty large, actually, because I'm seeing a video here, and once again, I haven't had a chance to fact check this video yet. If you want to take a look at it and inspect it here on the air and do a sort of a fact checking on it, you can. But it looks like there is reports of Iranians in the streets in Tabriz, which is a city in Iran, which appears to be in parallel with what's happening in Tehran, according to reports.
interesting. Let's take a little gander at this. I think that actually is what it is. But I don't know if this is Tabriz, though. I don't know the skyline of Tabriz or what Tabriz looks like well enough to say, oh, yeah, that's definitely Tabriz. Because there is actually a skyscraper or two off in the distance, and I don't know if they have those in Tabriz. Let me go check Tabriz and see. Well, they do have apartment buildings. I don't, it's possible. I mean, like, I wouldn't be able to geolocate it exactly, and it is nighttime, so it's really hard to get geolocation done quick on air. But I would take it at face value. This probably is happening in Tabriz.
I would imagine so as well. But the thing is, though, the reason why I say I hadn't had a chance to fact check it yet is because, yes, it may be demonstrations, but we don't know why they're demonstrating. Some people were saying earlier that maybe the people are rising up against the current regime inside of Iran because they're upset with the government. Some people were saying it's because they're out of water. Some people were saying it's because I don't know. Like, there's other reasons too. I can't remember the other reasons. There's a whole bunch of theories out there about why they could be rising up. It seems like the water would be the main reason, to me at least. If you're using logic, it seems like, being out of water and dying of thirst is probably a good reason to riot. So it could be that. But at the same time, though, we just don't know for a fact.
We have to go to Iran and deal with Hamas. And we also have to build a data center, like, to get rid of the rest of the water. But anyways, moving on out of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the ongoing protests that are happening inside the country, which is unclear as to exactly why they're happening, but apparently they're somewhat significant. We also were able to hear that apparently the Houthis are getting ready. This is the Houthi leader. I gotta say, this guy looks more like a pimp than a leader of a terrorist group. But
I thought he was a painter at first because he wears a paintbrush around his neck. You see that paintbrush he's got right there? It's like a golden encrusted paintbrush. I'm like, what the? I'm like, I guess that's like his like a bling or something. I don't know. Like, it's kind of weird. But his name is literally Al Houthi.
Hold up, man. Hold up. I gotta do something here. We're gonna do this on air, man. We're gonna start painting. Let me go ahead, folks, and take care of all this right here. 1 second, folks. I'm about to make an art piece if I can. Hold up, everyone. I'm cooking. Just give it a minute, folks. Just give it a minute. Oh, here we go. Oh, boy. Let's see here. Let's take that. Hold up, everyone. I usually do this off air, but we're going to do this on air so that way you can see the process. Hold up, let me make it a little bit bigger so it'll fit his head. Man, it's
like a sombrero.
Yo, it's a pimp named Schlickback. Yeah, bitch, where's my money? Like,
oh man, I'll tell you what, this guy right here, he's facing down the Saudis, he's facing down the Americans, he's facing down Israel. This guy right here has got a lot of enemies.
Dude, this guy has got quite a good deal of enemies, and also even his own name is his enemy, as his name is Abdul Malik al-Houthi. That's his full name. What a mouthful. But he said a new round with Israel is certain, and he's calling for continued readiness. We will be waiting to see what a pimp named Schlickback's going to be doing down there, because they better be getting his money, damn it, because if you're out on the streets putting out, you better be putting out, damn it. Meanwhile, down in Somaliland, we've also apparently heard that the Al-Shabaab, also comically named, has threatened against Israel after Israel recognized Somaliland on December 26th in 2025. In a statement, the Al-Qaeda-linked group said that it would fight any attempt by Israel to claim or use territory in Somaliland. In response, the Israelis are going to turn Al-Shabaab into Al-Kebab. So I don't really think they're going to be around that much longer. They're going to be charring on a fire somewhere soon from an Israeli JDAM, I'm sure. So apparently that's what the little, basically, Somali ISIS group is up to at the moment, is trying to resist the Israelis recognizing Somaliland as a legitimate country. Israel, mind you all, is the only country on the planet who has recognized Somaliland, so the recognition is not solid at all. As a matter of fact, it's still basically non-existent. It's just that Israel is pretending like it's a existent independent area, but it takes the entire world generally believing something like that for it to actually come into being. So,
Israel wants a little favor with Somaliland because it's right there next to Djibouti, so it's very strategic. If you look at it on a map, you'll understand why Israel is doing this, because it seems like a strange thing to do. Like, why would Israel recognize a country like this that really is kind of like a little bit wild and a little bit not really organized very well? But it's because it's right there next to Yemen, next to Djibouti. So they want their piece of the action. They want their piece of Djibouti to get into the action.
man, bro, the Al-Shabaab said, "What are you coming down here for?" And Israel said, "We're not coming down here for Djibouti. We're coming down here for your booty." Like they say, "Oh no!" Like, bro, it's like, man. Actually, Netanyahu would say, "Well, actually, we're not coming down here to make a Burger King, but you're going to be charbroiled, that's for sure." And they're like, "Oh god." So we'll see what the Israelis are up to in Somaliland, but the jokes are endless here, folks. And it's also endless when you have terrorist groups that are named something as stupid as Al-Shabaab. Like,
Al-Shabaab, that's crazy. Al-Shabaab hadn't had a big news segment on them in a minute. The last one they had, I think it was Black Hawk Down was the last one.
Yeah, I think it was, actually. I think that was the last time. I also got to say, folks, that the ISIS groups, they're really doing hard on recruitment these days. I mean, if you look at these guys, you can tell they're not really the sharpest tools in the shed, really, Like, the sandals, the overused RPKs and Chinese light machine guns, the AK being held together by duct tape. Also the fact that a lot of them aren't wearing their balaclava deal all too well. They always seem to be, not really the brightest ones, and I think the only thing that's going to be bright in their future is probably going to be the bombs that are coming for them from the Israelis, because I'm sure the Israelis will probably start to clear the place on out. But moving on out of that, we also were able to hear that the Southern Transitional Council of Yemen, which is supported by the Saudis, is still going hard against the UAE-backed Hadrami elite forces. This is the Southern Transitional Council, by the way. A lot of Toyotas. That's one thing we can get from this. Lots and lots of Toyotas. I feel like Toyota's largest market may actually be the Middle East, folks, because it seems like everywhere in the Middle East, there's not a single area that is missing at least 20 Toyotas. Like, I feel like if you asked the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, if you could have more of one thing in the world, what would it be? He would probably say more Toyota Hiluxes, because it doesn't really matter who you are in the Middle East. It's like everyone in there has a Toyota Hilux somewhere. It's absolutely insane. It's the most popular brand and type of vehicle, I think, in that entire region. But moving on out of that, it's time for us, folks, to get on up and into Ukraine. It's finally time for that news segment, folks, because we have a lot of news that did come out of Russia and Ukraine today. But before we get into that, we do have to return back to West Palm Beach, to Mar-a-Lago, because we have to get into all of the peace talk developments that happen in this area. First, we were able to hear that right before Zelensky arrived, just like last time, the president and Putin had a phone call. And this was a statement. I just had a very good and productive telephone call with President Putin of Russia prior to my meeting at 1 p.m. today with President Zelensky of Ukraine. The meeting will take place in the main dining room of Mar-a-Lago. Press is invited. Thank you for your attention to this matter. After the press was invited, the press was then uninvited and told to go eat a sandwich. So they left the room.
I think they had pigs in a blanket and also some branded water bottles and stuff like that.
They had pigs in a blanket?
I think so. I'd heard somebody say they had some pigs in a blanket. At least that's what some people were saying. And also branded water, yeah, with a certain brand name on it, which is very prevalent in modern day discourse.
That is very interesting. And also, according to the president, the Donbass issue is still unresolved, but I think it'll be resolved, basically meaning that's not happening. There's no peace deal coming around the corner. We've also been able to hear that apparently the United States will give really no security guarantees, and it's basically going to be entirely upon the Europeans to make the security guarantees, which is pretty much the same position from the United States, unchanged, which the Europe and the Ukrainians consider unacceptable. And also, we have to play this little clip, because it was one hell of a clip. So I'll just let you all hear it and watch Zelensky's reaction.
Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. Once it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the president, President Putin.
Man, crazy statement right there. Honestly, what he said something like what he said. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. They really care about them. Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Honestly, I think all you can do is kind of laugh at that, or otherwise cry, or get irate. I'm not sure how to react to that. It's insane.
Meanwhile, just a few hours earlier, you have to understand, Mr. President, Rinky-Dink the Wise has to have us kill all of the Ukrainian women and children so that way Ukraine can succeed. We're doing this so that way we can help them. It's like, what type of stupid stuff was he just told on that phone call before he met Zelensky to say something like that? Folks, that one speaks for itself. Do I even have to talk about that a lot? Like that was a really dumb statement. Like the country that is bombing Ukraine into oblivion and killing thousands of innocent civilians every year clearly wants Ukraine to succeed. That's like saying, that's like going anywhere else in the world and saying China wants Taiwan to succeed or that we want Venezuela to succeed. How in the world does that work? That's not even the case.
That's crazy, honestly. Also, by the way, I couldn't tell because I watched this whole thing live today. Like I watched the whole press conference. I was waiting to see what they were going to say. I already knew what the outcome was going to be, but I was curious about what was going to be said during it. Zelensky, I thought I heard him mutter a couple things at the microphone, like throughout the president speaking. I couldn't quite make out what he was saying because the president was talking very loudly, and I couldn't hear Zelensky over the president when he was murmuring something. But if I had to take a guess, it sounded like he was adding some quip quos in there, like a little bit, like some quips behind some of these statements that were being made. I mean, there were some stupid statements being made today. Like, for example, like the one we just heard about Russia having Ukraine's best interest and wishing them the best. That's crazy. It's like, obviously, they just attacked civilians yesterday. They obviously don't have their best intentions in mind. You don't do that if you care about your neighborly countries. So, I mean, there was a lot. To break it down is almost pointless, but there was some stupid statements being made for sure.
Yeah, and it's a stupid statement when the guy follows it up right after he makes a statement with, "I know that sounds crazy." It's like, yeah, it does sound crazy because it is. There's no way to explain that in a good way. It's like that just sounds stupid as hell. And someone's about to say, "Oh, it's political." No, I call bullshit for what it is. Those were stupid statements. That's what it is. Like, you're never going to have me sit here and say, "Well, maybe he has a point. Maybe the country bombing and killing innocent civilians every day really has their best interest in mind." It's like saying the Israelis have the best interest of the Gazans in mind. It's like, clearly they don't. I mean, like, Israel could give a shit about the Gazans at the end of the day. All they care about is getting back at Iran, and they don't care how many Gazans they have to end up bombing at the end of the day to do that. They're going to do it. So trying to say that Israel really cares about the Gazans and the Gaza Strip, that would be absolutely ludicrous. That's as ludicrous as saying that Russia cares about Ukraine or that China loves Taiwan and is looking out for their best interest. That's absolutely asinine. You're like, that's not even living in reality. That's living in fantasy. Like,
yeah.
So people got to wake up.
And also another thing as well, just remember the other statement that was made today that was really, really dumb. There was a statement made by the U.S. official, specifically, I think it was the president. I'm not quoting this verbatim, so don't quote me on it, but something along these lines to this effect. He said something about he understands why Putin does not want to agree to a ceasefire because he's worried that the fighting is going to start up again and he doesn't want to have to deal with it when it starts back up. But the problem with that logic is the United States was just praising the ceasefire that was reached between Thailand and Cambodia. So if that's a fatal flaw to ceasefires, then why were we trying to broker a ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia? Because that seems to prove the point that we were making. We were saying here on the channel that a cheap ceasefire is pointless. And it seems like the president admitted that today. He said, I understand where Putin's coming from when he says he doesn't want a ceasefire in Ukraine because it's not going to hold. And I'm like, well, that's the logic we were trying to say about Thailand and Cambodia, but that wasn't the rationale used there. The U.S. was doing something completely different.
That rationale literally isn't used anywhere else but in this particular situation. He sits here and calls himself the president of peace because he's negotiated a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, Armenia and Azerbaijan, and Thailand and Cambodia. And basically all of those, except for the Armenia-Azerbaijan one, which the Armenians and the Azerbaijanis even claim the U.S. was hardly involved at all in that process, and they've made fun of him for even making that statement. So the only one that's kind of held is India and Pakistan, and that one's bound to fail soon. Both of them are making that quite clear, and the Thailand-Cambodian one literally exploded into absolute failure. So whenever he says he's the president of peace, he's saying that about ceasefires, which apparently are war ending, at least in every other definition, except for Ukraine. Apparently a ceasefire is stupid and cheap when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, but in every other conflict, it's literally the ultimate peacemaking, Nobel Prize winning sort of a move, which is just completely paradoxical. That can't not make sense.
And also, like in Ukraine, there actually might be a case for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Like, unlike Thailand and Cambodia, there may be a rationale for one inside of Ukraine because Putin and the Russians keep saying, well, Zelensky needs to hold elections because we can't even recognize Zelensky as the leader because he hasn't held elections. Russia keeps saying that, even though we know that Russia doesn't hold fair elections. That's obvious. It's clear as a bell they don't. But they're saying that they're going to hold Ukraine to a different standard. They need to hold elections because Zelensky can't reach an agreement because he's not the legitimate leader there because he hasn't held an election. So Zelensky said, surprisingly to me, Zelensky actually entertained that and said, well, we might be able to hold an election because the U.S. is kind of pressuring us to do that, but we would need a ceasefire to actually properly conduct the election. So there might be a case for a ceasefire to conduct the election. That's something that Putin was demanding, was the elections. So for Putin to say he's not going to agree to a ceasefire, but yet he's demanding elections, it's all of it is stalling. Like there's no good faith effort by the Russians at all to end this thing, and it's been clear the entire time, and it's proven by that contradiction.
Yeah, what's stupid, folks, is that right now, like I'm just gonna be just completely unfiltered. What's stupid about this right now, folks, is that the president is hyper focused on having Ukraine give up the rest of the Donbass. So, like Matthew's saying, once Ukraine agrees somehow, some way, which they really can according to their constitution, to just give up land. Once they do that, then the Russians are going to go, well, we can't accept that anyways because the Ukrainian government isn't the legitimate government, so now we need to move on from the land, which we now guaranteed are getting. We also need to make sure that we can rig an election in Ukraine so that way a Russian puppet gets elected and installed before the war even ends, so that way then we can do whatever we want afterwards anyways. Then they're going to move on to that. And then we've got to get into the whole rigmarole of holding an election in wartime in Ukraine, which is constitutionally not legal in Ukraine because of how their constitution was written. So then we have to go and try and jump that hurdle, and that one's going to be an impossible one to jump, which means that the war is going to keep going on forever. And that means that at that point, when negotiations ever restart again, they're starting wherever we moved the line at. So now we're moving the line to, if Zelensky ever agreed to that, the Russians get the Donbass by default anyways. That is the starting ground, and then we have to give them more to meet them in the middle at some point. So this is just absolutely stupid peace deal making. Like, just to be entirely honest with y'all, this is ass backwards, asinine, and nonsensical. And it's only putting Ukraine, Europe, and us in a worse position each time we push the Ukrainians to accept another demand for the Russians to make another one on top of that, and even push it along further more towards their direction than ours.
Yeah, and also another thing that was said today at some point is there was a suggestion by the United States that Russia in the next couple of months might just take the rest of Ukraine's land in the Donbass, which is insane, by the way. It's not going to happen. That's not even realistic. That sounds like some Putin propaganda that Putin's probably saying over the phone. So the land is not up for grabs. That was another statement that was made today, that the land is just up for grabs. It's not up for grabs. Ukraine's holding the lines. There's a give and take along some areas of the front lines, and there's also a lot of lying that the Russians are doing about taking, like, for example, Kupiansk, when they didn't even take it. And right now the Russians are eating foot on that whole situation, and Putin looked like a complete joke over that. So it's just a bunch of lying. And also, it's like they're not even making good progress. And Russia is probably throwing everything they have at the situation right now to try to get some progress, some fake progress, so that way they can use that as leverage in talks like they did last time. They did the exact same thing the last time. But the only time, this will be the indicator of these talks actually making progress, which they won't. But the moment you hear the U.S. give specifics, like they say 1, 2, 3, these are the 3 issues right here that must be resolved, and then we'll have a deal. That'll let you know that a deal is actually around the corner. The U.S. is still being vague. They're not giving us any details whatsoever about what the actual negotiations are being held up about. And why would you need to be vague if it was actually having good progress? They're being vague because they don't want to admit it's not going anywhere.
Exactly. And it's like, I love it when they sit there and say, oh, the war is going to be over for Ukraine because they could lose the Donbass in 3 months. You know what's crazy, folks, is that in about a month, this is going to be the entire length in terms of how long this war is, that the Soviet Union was in the Second World War. Just in about a month and a half from now, this war will have become longer than the Soviet Union's involvement in the Second World War. Just to give you all an idea of how well they're doing. They've only taken 20% of Ukraine. They lost a lot of what they originally held at the beginning of the war. And they are slowly moving forward. I mean, like, inch by inch. Over 4 years now, they have taken this. In 4 years in World War II, the Russians invaded the Soviet Union literally in the middle of Poland, basically, and pushed them all the way back to Moscow. And then the Soviets then went all the way to Berlin in 4 years. So if you measure that in actual frontline distance, let's do a measurement here, a rough one. So from about to here, let's see here, we'll do to about here and then back. So that was about, let's see here, they actually went beyond Berlin by a good bit. So about right here. So that was about 1,740 miles in 4 years. So let's divide that down. How many miles was the front line moving by year on the Eastern Front in World War II? So let's see here. 1,743 divided by 4. That would be a 437-mile front line change every single year of the Second World War on average on the Eastern Front. 435 miles. So if the Russians in 4 years, the Russians should have been able to make it all the way from the very border of Ukraine at this point about to London, if this was off of a World War II perspective of how fast the front line was moving on a year-to-year basis. Instead, the Russians have made it at the deepest. We'll go with the deepest point to give them the benefit of the doubt. They've gone 116 miles in 4 years. So instead of averaging about 430 miles per year in this war, they have averaged roughly at the best about 20 miles a year. In reality, if we look at the actual Donbass right here, from where the front was to where it is right now at the farthest, they're averaging only about, let's see, what would it be? About 6 to 7 miles a year on average, compared to World War II's 435. So quite
the inchworms could go faster than that. I mean, a freaking snail can move faster than that pace right there. And it's like the snail isn't losing 1 million soldiers. It's like the snail is doing it without any casualties. So I think the snail is actually, they have won over the Russians.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, a snail moving at this pace over 4 years, I think at this point it's made it almost to Germany right now, like at the speed at which a snail moves. And I also saw someone say, silly comparison, there weren't drones in World War II. They had like planes and bombs, and they had like cutting edge technology back then that was war changing. That's like saying you can't compare a historical example of World War I to today because they didn't have an AR-15. Like that doesn't really make any sense at all. Like wars are wars. It doesn't really matter the technology, it matters the strategy, the tactics, and the frontline movement, which there is none in this war. It's literally a dead on stalemate. You would see this kind of frontline movement going on in the First World War. And even then, the First World War moved quicker than this, because the First World War would be over by now. It didn't last that long. So anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, to put it into perspective how well the Russians are, quote-unquote, winning. And then we also were able to hear that after the meeting, there was a phone call, and Emmanuel Macron, who's basically the head honcho in Europe at the moment, stated that along with several other European leaders, I took part this evening in an exchange with the presidents of Ukraine and the United States. I then spoke with President Zelensky personally. We are making progress on the security guarantees that will be central to building a just and lasting peace. We will bring together the countries of the Coalition of the Willing in Paris in early January to finalize each country's concrete contributions. So it appears that they're still trying to figure out what they're going to be doing in the Coalition of the Willing. Meanwhile, the Russians did finally launch a rocket today at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, funnily enough, to launch off Iranian satellites for Iran to make a little bit of cash.
Предварительное. Промежуточное. Главное.
Please don't blow up.
Please be the love of God work.
Прошел контакт подъема. Двигатели центрального и боковых блоков вышли на режим плавной ступени.
Oh, thank God it's barely working.
10
Man.
секунд. Параметры системы управления ракетой.
If that was an Oreshnik, it'd be over. Oh, look, they tried to get the little SpaceX sort of like display at the bottom of the screen. Oh, how cheap. They always are trying to imitate, because they can never beat American excellence in any way. But anyways, moving on from that and on into Moscow, we also were able to hear today that apparently the Russians did pull another fast one, because the Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov stated that the President of the United States told Putin he is now convinced Russia seeks a political diplomatic settlement in Ukraine. This came the same day that Russia said they were going to continue the war until they win, and also the same day that they were bombing civilians in Ukraine till no end. Meanwhile, the significant Ukrainian drone attack was conducted on Russia today as well in reprisal, with multiple targets being hit throughout the country. Getting on those targets, we were able to confirm that the city of Krasnodar came under a significant drone attack. You can hear that in this clip right here.
Oh. Angry wasp.
Oh, it's a little loud, Bliet. Oh, there it
Damage.
goes. Oh!
Oh. They crashed. Oh.
No!
A second one. There was a second big boom.
Mr. President, there was a second drone. Oh,
I
my
was gonna
God.
do it.
Oh, man. But moving on down and towards the area of the Kanskaya Air Base, we also saw air defense fire in this area. Look at them go. There it is.
They don't call it Krasnodar Cry for nothing.
Man, they be crying a lot down in Krasnodar. They give them a reason. Like, oh, God. Man.
They got snow out here, but no blowers.
Man, I tell you, man. Like, bro, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I tell you, man.
I, don't know.
tell you.
I just said it. Some things pop in my head, and I just say the damn thing.
Oh. That looks like a substation
Oh, look
that
at
got
that.
hit.
I hear sirens in the distance. That could be the airfield. Sounds like a tricorder out there in the background. You hear that little noise back there? It's like the Star Trek tricorder sound out there. You hear it?
Yeah, right when this clip cut off, there you could actually hear, he's dead, Jim. Like, bro, like,
Yeah, listen to that again. Listen.
yeah, that does sound like it.
His heart rate's normal. Pulse right. Jim, this man's alive.
Spock has no brain. Like, it's oh no. Oh God, we gotta go find his brain. And for some reason, a whole bunch of women in some underground bunker are holding it for some reason. I don't know. Like, that episode made no sense. But anyways, moving on from that, we did get to see more footage. That's a duplicate.
That's a tricorder sounding. I knew it was a duplicate.
Here's the other one.
Ля, ебать, там хуярит.
You always have the Russian that sounds a little daft.
Во-во-во.
Like,
Во-во-во.
He doesn't know the word explosion, so he goes, whoa, whoa.
Bro, he makes the sounds of a helicopter. He goes,
Sound it out, Ivan. Sound it out. You'll get it eventually. But don't forget your vowels. A-E-I-O-U.
don't know.
Всем похуй вообще. Слева какая-то хуйня отъебала.
Where's the goofy one? Come on, say something, man.
Все перестало.
Да что тебе тут стало? Да.
Well, Not a good day down in Krasnodar. They crying. Moving on from that and on up into Tula. We also got to hear that there was a missile threat in Tula. Oh, get it going!
The old-timey. The old-timey.
Nебесный. Man, this is like World War II. The Wehrmacht's coming. What the hell?
Oh, damn. Hey, there's that Chernobyl.
Yeah!
That's the Chernobyl thing. That is the same verbiage and everything they used when they told the people to evacuate from Chernobyl because the reactors went critical and also blew apart and just threw graphite everywhere all over the ground. So that's the exact same thing. Also, why does it sound like a prison break siren just going off in the background?
We got a runner. Like, get the cop, get the teams, get the police. We got to send a man on. Bro, that's actually the siren they used to play back in communist times when someone wouldn't show up to work on time. Like the pneumonia. But anyways.
Leave your homes temporarily. You'll be back in 24 hours. 24 years passes and they're still not back. Russia's been lying ever since Chernobyl, man.
Honestly.
Yeah, this dude's yapping. Like, what kind of a warning is this? Dude's yapping central.
Bro, that siren went, and now for the weather. It's like, yo, it's like...
First started doing an ad read right in the middle of the warning. He started yapping like a fiend.
Bro, he said, this siren is brought to you by Ruble Base. Like, bro, it's like, dude, no way. The sirens have sponsors in Russia. They're 500 years ahead of us, folks. Oh, a little Panzer missile right there. Nice. Well, moving on from those clips in Tula, it's time for us folks to finally get on into Ukraine. We have a lot coming out of Ukraine today. Starting off with our first clip, we got to see more donkey. There he is, little fellow.
He does not want to be out there.
He's chilling. I hate that they are bringing these out in mass.
Да не пугать его. Он и так-то в ахуе, ты его еще пугаешь.
And we also have the tweaker over here. Listen, bro, he's sitting over there going, let's take out the donkey and strip it for copper wire. And he's like, yo, calm down, dude.
The donkey's looking away like, damn, I think that man sold me fent.
Listen to this guy.
Он и так-то в ахуе, ты его еще пугаешь.
Yeah.
That guy sounds bad over there. He sounds like he's all hoarse and stuff. That guy doesn't sound right.
Dude, that guy sounds like he would be like the sidekick of a captain on a pirate ship. Like, yes, captain, let's take them and steal their cargo. You know, something like that. It's like, dude, why do you sound like that? Why are you so weird? But anyways, we also got the Russian casualty report. Oh, no bobcats, but the casualties were high today. Miss DC Keeper of the Records has stated that 688 drones shot down is the third highest daily loss at the wire. December troop losses to date is 31,650 and exceeds the past 4 monthly losses. Vehicle total is higher than the past 3 months, and UAVs may top October record month with 3 more days to go. So, getting us on into the breakdown here. 1,200 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed over the past 24 hours. Not good for them. 8 APCs, 166 supply trucks, 5 main battle tanks, 15 artillery pieces, 688 drones, 2 MLRSs, and 29 cruise missiles. All in all, a pretty good day. Moving on from that, it's time to go see where it was a good day. And up at Kupiansk, it was pretty decent. The Russians were getting slammed by the 116th Mechanized Brigade up here. That is a BMP-3. It's no longer going to be a BMP-3. Also, once we get done with this clip, folks, we actually have a bowl we'll have to get to. So, you can see a Buhanka and a Mavic. And they're about to get it. Oh, dang. And also this little outpost here. I don't know what was in it, but they did hit it. So, with that in mind, folks, it's time to ask, what are the Russians going to do about this current little peace arrangement? And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so we asked everybody a question. We said, what is your new overall prediction for how current U.S., Ukraine, Russia talks are going to play out? It looks like about 54% said Russia will reject everything, while 29% said the USA will screw Ukraine over, and 11% said Ukraine will likely compromise. So right now, I'm just going to say this how it is. The Russians are pissing on the United States. That's literally as bad as it is. They are just taking a big crap right all over us right now. They currently have a couple of their officials over here apparently doing some water surfing off of Miami and enjoying the place while they're also trying to destroy Western democracy, which is not good. They shouldn't let them do that. But I think honestly, the USA really can't screw Ukraine over at this point because the Europeans have stepped in and provided the $100 billion loan. So they're protected on that front. But if the USA really wanted to be nasty and malignant, they could try to block arms sales. Even if Ukraine offered the money to buy them, they could try to block those arms sales. That's pretty much the only remaining risk at this point for Ukraine. So that's pretty much it. So I'm not with the 28%. I don't think the USA is going to screw Ukraine over that badly. But what is going to happen in the meantime, though, is Zelensky's going to be forced to jump through hoops left and right, pointlessly, to try to keep the U.S. on his good side, just for the hell of it, while basically Russia rejects everything. So Russia gets a free pass. Ukraine has to jump through hoops because apparently in modern-day society and culture, the strongman dictator gets leverage, and the guy who's fighting for what's right gets screwed and shafted. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say Russia will probably reject everything as well, and I pretty much agree with everything that you said, Matthew. I'd agree with that 100%. And moving on from that, folks, and on down in the front line, we also got to see them hitting some more Russians today. Take a little look at this. They got those movie lines coming in. And we can see here that they're bringing in the FP2, boy.
Also, by the way, if people are wondering what I'm talking about, I saw someone say, "What do you mean, like they're surfboarding?" It's Kirill Dmitriev, the guy who blocked us on Twitter because he couldn't handle like a he could. I didn't even insult the guy. That's the crazy thing. I didn't even insult the guy. I simply said something like I was criticizing or being sarcastic or something about some comment he made. I didn't even insult him personally, and he blocked our page, which really shows you how what of a lightweight that guy is. But he did that, and then he went to Miami and he jumped on like a waterboarding. I don't know what they call it, wakeboarding, I guess. I don't really do water sports, but he was doing that, and he was playing a song in the background that was talking about Mother Russia, this is Russia, and stuff like that. It's like, what is this clown doing being allowed into the United States as a representative of the Russian government over here surfboarding around and using our own soil as a propaganda piece for the Russians? It's like, somebody tell that guy he can come here for diplomacy reasons, and even at that, he should be under scrutiny, and then he can go back to Russia. I'm like, we shouldn't let the Russian government officials just roam around the country wherever they want to go.
Actually, that was the stupid fool who almost got mauled by the bear cub up in Alaska on film. It's that same guy.
Yeah, that guy's a goof.
Yeah, actually, we do have that clip. I forgot to show that to y'all a little while ago. Let me go back to Florida and get that for y'all. So here you go. This is it. I can't play the audio, but we can show you all the stupid idiot, waterboarding, not the Guantanamo way in Miami.
Also, his shirt apparently says "next time in Moscow" on it. You know how Putin was saying to the U.S. president at that Alaska meeting? He said, "Maybe next time in Moscow."
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
Apparently that's on his shirt.
Oh, this stupid guy, though. Also, man, this guy looks like an absolute dork. Like, just 100%.
He really does, man. He looks like a dork.
I gotta tell you, folks, this kind of stuff makes me sick.
It really makes me so sick. Like, it pisses me off. It's like they're literally, this is literally like the equivalent. I don't know if other people take it this way. This is the equivalent of pissing on us, basically. They come here and do stupid stuff like this as the Russian government, while they're literally fighting against everything we believe in at the same time. It's like, this should not be allowed right here.
I just gotta say this, folks. It just aggravates me, It aggravates me. So, when people come from a country like, say, Mexico, and they move to America and they become a U.S. citizen, but they still have loyalties to Mexico, the current U.S. government looks down on them heavily. I honestly say that I kind of agree with that. But when a Russian comes here on a diplomatic mission for their country, and then they also show disrespect to our country and pretty much act like they run the show in Miami in the United States, then that's fine. We don't care. What kind of stupidity is this? I mean, it either matters across the board or it does not. Which one is it? And it's if it doesn't matter here, then it doesn't matter anywhere. You can't complain about it at all. Like, people can't sit there and say, if they're fine with this, you can't sit there and say, oh, but these people in, like, Colorado that still have, heavy loyalties to Mexico, there's something wrong with that. It's like, what's wrong with it? This guy came over as an official representative of Russia and pissed on our whole country down in Miami. Basically acted like they ran Miami. It's like, how in the world can you make a like it's either all a problem or it's not a problem. This is clearly a problem. Like, there's no doubt about that. This is a huge problem, and the entire Russian diplomatic team should be expelled over this this deal that happened right here. This is absolute
Also,
stupidity.
look at it this way as well. This guy was here, I assume, because he was invited here to discuss diplomacy and things like that, since he is, I think he's a special envoy, his official position. So what is he doing wakeboarding off Miami? Like, what is he even doing? It's like, and also, is somebody monitoring this guy? It's like, shouldn't the government be watching him as a person from an enemy state who's working with the Russian government? Shouldn't they be keeping a sharp eye on him?
Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, honestly, that's a good question as well. And I see, let's see, someone said, how is surfing acting like they run the show in Miami? Do you not see the shirt he's wearing and the song he's playing while he's doing that? And he's enjoying the United States? He's not here to enjoy the United States. He's on a business venture. So I don't.
He did it. He did it to show all the Americans, for example, the people that are anti-Russia, that the Russians will show up and do whatever the hell they want in America, and you can't do a damn thing about it. That's essentially what the message is behind it. And right now, they're being allowed to do that, which they shouldn't be allowed to do it. But that's the message that I think he was trying to send.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the message that they were trying to send, and the entire Russian diplomatic team should be expelled, because if Russia really respected us, they wouldn't have their chief negotiators going out and having a fun time waterboarding in Miami. They're here to negotiate an end to a major war, not sit here and show people in America they'll do whatever they want and there's nothing they can do about it. But moving on from that and back into Ukraine and back towards the front lines, we did see near the area of Bakhmut that apparently the situation is not good. Basically, in this giant wall of text translated to English, they're basically explaining that the Ukrainians have drone superiority in this area, and at one individual incident that they documented, a singular Russian soldier was hunted down by 17 FPV drones and literally mauled by these FPV drones in short. So apparently there's no way to make any advance right now on the Kramatorsk front, but because the Ukrainians have air superiority just from the FPV drones alone, which is pretty crazy. But moving on from that and down into Donetsk, we also confirmed that an ammo dump in that area had been hit and had caught on fire overnight, while additionally, we also saw a clip showing us what the battlefield of Volodar looks like several years on now. So here's a little look at that.
I think Russia really cares about Ukraine.
Yeah, this looks like a lot of love and care right here, for sure.
Oh.
Man. Just look at this. This was a huge battlefield for an incredibly long time, pretty much up until the very beginning of this year, when it was finally taken by the Russians. The Ukrainians held this town tooth and nail. There's basically no way that the Russians would have made this into this town without huge losses in the outskirts, which they did take, but they eventually did take the town. But moving on from that and on up into Pokrovsk, we also were able to see the Ukrainians, oh, actually, we can't show that. Sorry, everyone. We did get to see that the Ukrainians, though, in the 1st Azov Corps, apparently are starting a new trend, based or cringe. I'll have to
I hear
mute the
music.
audio. Yeah, but he said, to be a soldier of the Russian army, based or cringe? The soldier said based, basically. To take Kyiv in 3 days, the soldier then said cringe. Based or cringe to die in a foreign country? Cringe. A lot of Vesta for 22 grand. I think it's fine. To
I don't think
understand,
it's fine.
you can get a Lexus in a good price when your country you have the largest gas reserves, but the majority of the population heats their homes with wood? Cringe. Based or cringe, to attack a position on a scooter. That's cringe. Is it based or cringe when people in Russia shout, we won't leave our own people behind, and how do you end up in captivity? It's cringe. It is based or cringe to free people who don't want to be free by you. Cringe. Is it based or cringe that your commander keeps more equipment than personnel? Cringe. Is it based or cringe that people in Russia talk about fascist and you turned out to be a fascist? It's cringe. That's based or cringe that you didn't meet Bandera. Well, I thought you were scared that Bandera supporters are here. I've not been scared by him, but I don't even know how to answer. So you want to meet Bandera? Yeah, somehow not. No, not even. So it's based. What the hell? Based or cringe that your commander has imposed something upon you. Cringe. Based or cringe that you were at war with NATO and the Ukrainian took you as a prisoner. Cringe. Based or cringe that we are bringing you out your oil reserves. Cringe. And the work of our intelligence. Based. This guy's giving the right answer.
Based on what?
Based on the, it's cringe or based, like that's based, bro, or that's cringe, that kind of a deal.
So he's saying it's based on something?
No. He's saying like it's based as in it's good, like that's the modern slang, based. That's based. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, people call us based. They don't mean based on nothing. They just mean we're based. Like that's a good thing. Being
based
captured
like turkey.
No, not like a turkey baster. Like not like that.
Man, I'm not understanding his logic. I'll accept it as modern slang, though. I'm not really sure. I'm not totally understanding what the hell that means. Okay, Kolchak said basically good or bad. So cringe is bad and
based, spelled
based
B-A-S-E-D. Yeah, not based. It's based.
Okay.
Like B-A-S-E-D. Being captured and surviving. Normal. Biolaboratory with mosquitoes. Cringe. That was, by the way, like something very early on in the war that the Russians claimed, is that the Ukrainians were bioengineering deadly mosquitoes that were going to kill anyone with Russian genetics. That was like the thing that Russia claimed they were invading Ukraine over. That was like years ago. It doesn't even apply these days. When one president rules the country for more than 20 years, of course, cringe. Oh, he's not going back to Russia in any good standing. More than 1 million of your soldiers injured and dead. Cringe. There's no water in Donetsk. Is this bad or cringe? Cringe. I mean, based or cringe. And there we go. There's the answers, folks, from a Russian
That was a
president.
stupid game. It's what a stupid game. Stupid slang.
Hey, man.
They need to come up with a better game.
Dude, that was based. Based, as a matter of fact. But moving on from that, we also get to see the Ukrainians hitting some more Russians than the Phoenix unit. They hit some occupants, which are occupiers. We also saw them hit another one, and another, and another, and another. This guy's trying to get in the house. He's about to meet Mickey Mouse. We can also see him getting another, and another.
Man, honestly, I think I'm in favor of like something like old fashioned. I think if it was old people, not old people in a bad way, by the way. Somebody would be like, they're making fun of old people. I'm not making fun of old people. Okay, I'll be there too one day. They ought to just say, instead of cringe or basted or based, they ought to just say they ought to say dumbass or smart ass. Which one's gonna so make it real simple? Everybody understand that one.
Man, bro, they ought to say cap or no cap. Man, that would be the better one.
Yeah, I do understand cap or no cap. I understand the capping.
Man, that's because we grew up on the streets. Like,
man, those streets, not on the streets.
Man, that's capping, bro. That's cap, bro. That's no cap, bro. But anyways, moving on from that, we also saw them hitting some other vehicles of the Rsusian army in Pokrovsk. Take a look. They're blowing up a decent amount of main battle tanks, actually. Is this a replay of the same damn tank getting hit 9 times? Damn. They played that so many times, I thought it was a different tank each time. OF 9490, so wait until the enforcers learn about like 6-7. I've already learned about it, and now I feel like an old person because that one just doesn't make any sense to me. I remember when 420 and all that was like the rage, and it was funny, and then older people didn't get it, like adults at all did not get it. And now I'm one of those people because I just don't get 6-7 at all. I don't understand it. But anyways, we also get.
It's okay to call it stupid because it is stupid. And also, here's my message to the old people out there that think it's cool to engage in this brain rot. Don't do it. Please don't. And it's not cute. It's not. Like, the young people got to grow out of that, because it's the brain rot's getting out of control. Like, I can't even keep up with it myself anymore. I'm 25 and I can't keep up with it, and I'm literally in the meme like thing and stuff like that. So I keep up with that stuff. And I'm like, basted or cringe. Like, I knew what cringe
Based,
was.
man,
I'm
not basted.
based.
Like,
Oh, I'm like, I don't even know what the hell that means. I'm like, I am in this generation.
Man,
and 6'7", what the hell does that mean? It's just two numbers in sequence.
I don't even know. Like, what 6'7" meaning? Maybe it's like what the hell? No, 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 dude, no, this is cringe. Oh my god, this is cringe. Dude, look at this. 6'7" meaning. Look at what the page does. What the hell's that?
What? No. See,
It's
that's
doing
what I'm
the
talking
hand
about.
thing.
These people,
It's doing the hand
people
thing.
think it's cute. They think it's cute. Even the tech companies are getting involved with.
Oh
That's
my-
bad.
oh
That's
my
brain
God.
rot. What the hell does it mean, though?
So if I click enter again, does it do it again? Oh my god, it does it again. It does it every
Oh,
time.
man.
Oh my god.
Wobbling, like that's like indicative of people's brains at this point. They're like wobbling in place. Like, you're supposed to be, your brain's not supposed to move, but at this point, it's like wobbling. It's shaking. You know, the brain's getting loose.
Okay, so let's see what a million gallons of water of AI overview tells us about this. The meaning of 6'7" has exploded in 2025, primarily as a viral, nonsensical slang term popular with Gen Alpha. You know, I don't know why.
Alpha? What generation is that?
That's the generation right after ours. We're Gen Z and they're Gen Alpha. So, and then there's Gen Beta now. That's, man, imagine being in Gen Beta. Andrew Tate hates your ass off the bat. Like, but I don't think he can too much because, you know, you kind of got beat up. But anyways, dictionary.com's word of the year for its ubiquity and lack of definition stemming from a meme. While mathematically it's a prime number and spiritually it relates to inner journeys. What the hell? It signifies the brain rot of internet culture, where a term just is, used in various contexts from music to social media, but ultimately means whatever the user intends or nothing at all. You know,
they're dumbing us down. They literally admit it means nothing, but people are doing it like it means something. It's nothing. It's like, why are people doing it? I don't get it. I understand like a joke, but there has to be like at least a joke can fail. There's nothing to even fail or succeed at. It's just saying two numbers in sequence.
Okay, but there is one meme though from our generation, man, that was really stupid that I remember, and it was the E meme. Do you remember that meme? The E meme?
I don't remember that.
You know, it's that picture of Markiplier, like Lord Farquaad, it just had an E below him. Like, this was a big thing in, like, 2017. Like, this was huge. This was, like, the meme of the year.
I'll be honest, I'm not like one of these people that's like a killjoy or something. It's like, I don't do these stupid games. I like a good joke, but some of this stuff is just like really stupid. Like this right here, I don't even understand what the hell this even is supposed to be. There is no meaning to it. It's just stupid.
Honestly, there is no meaning to this at all. Like,
I mean, look at it. I mean, somebody put this on the screen and it went berserk. Why are people eating this up?
I don't know. I really don't know. But man, you know, this was made back in 2017, man, about memes of old versus the memes of the new. And that was our generation, by the way, when we were starting to get in the memes. And now it's the Gen Alpha people who are kind of taking the cake now. But you know, that's modern memes for y'all folks. They don't make a lot of sense at all. I just don't really get it. But anyways, with that, folks, it is time for us to move on into our next bits of news, which are down at the ZMPP. As he said it, PP67. But anyways, moving on from that, Ukraine and Russia have agreed to localize ceasefires to repair damaged power transmission lines near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, according to the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi, according to a Reuters report. The repair work is expected to take several days, and afterwards the ceasefire will then stop. So that is the end of our news, folks, for the day. It's now time for us to move on into the second segment of the stream, where we get to talk to every one of y'all. There is no speech from Zelensky today. Zelensky was too busy hearing that the Russians love Ukraine and they're looking out for him from the president to be able to make one of those addresses. And I have a feeling that when he gets back to it, the brain rot that happened at that conference will probably have him going, hello, everyone, my fellow Ukrainians. The situation is 6-7. Get it? Oh, God. I got to get out of America. But beyond that, with that, it is time for us to get on into the question segment. We don't have a speech, though. But, Matthew, what do we got?
All right. So I feel like after Zelensky left the United States, he might have needed like some help after he left. So I can understand why he didn't make a speech. To be perfectly honest, he probably needed maybe some Tylenol to recover, maybe with a possible headache. That's just my guess. I don't have behind the scenes knowledge, but it doesn't take a genius to realize when you have a headache over something. I think he might have got one. But anyways, jumping away from all that right there and jumping into the final call out of the top donors of the night, we did see here that ARP Bob threw in a total of $500 in donations tonight, and a huge shout to ARP Bob. That is by far the biggest combined donations of the night, and we do appreciate that. Once again, generosity toward the fundraiser. And we also had a $350 from Nicholas Conder, also extremely generous, along with Hal Rose, who threw in a $333 donation, and Cerebrus, who did a $250, along with Tripod, who did a $200, and then Espen Turgenhagen, who did a $150, as well as Nightmare Before Christmas, who did a $50, along with Chef Danny B, and Chef Danny B yet again with another $50, and also EMJ 6446 with a $50 as well. So a huge shout out to all the donors, including the top donors, and even the folks we were not able to call off. A huge shout out to you for helping us to get up to $3,600 raised so far, and a huge shout out to every single one of you for having another successful fundraiser tonight. But Enforcer, what say you?
I got to give a massive shout out to each and every single one of y'all who have been supporting this fundraiser tonight, because y'all have gotten it up to a whopping $3,602 raised. Now, that is an incredible number right there. That's way better than 6-7. I can tell you that. But a humongous thanks to the entirety of the Lee Spring Army for making that a reality and getting us to that point tonight. It's always an incredible thing to know that the Lee Spring Army has never missed a fundraising goal and never will miss a fundraising goal. So a big congrats to all of y'all once again for that. And with that, it's time for us to get on into the questions, to where we get to talk to all of y'all. So Matthew, what do we got?
And believe it or not, we actually have 2 super chats to address. So we'll address those first and then jump right into our live chat questions. And we have some good ones tonight.
Holy
but our first
moly!
super chat. What happened?
Lord Cog threw in a $500 donation.
A $500. Now we're up to $4,100 right there. That is crazy. Thank you, Lord Cog. That is crazy generous to the fundraiser.
Holy moly! Lord Cog threw in a $500 donation, folks. That got the fundraiser up to $4,102. That is something. That is based. What are the other ones? Let's see. That is no capping. That is bussin'. And that's one I get.
That is skibbity top, alpha top Riz.
Oh, man. Imagine the retirement homes, man, when we get old. Man, that's bussin'. like it's going to be something else. 420, bussin'. It's like 6'9", 420, bussin', no cap. Oh, God. But anyways, oh, my God. But beyond that, truly an incredible thing. A huge shout out to Lord Cog for that unbelievably massive donation. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on and into that super chat that we were about to get to. So what do we got, Matthew?
And our first super chat goes to Chef Danny B. And thank you very much, Chef Danny, for throwing in a super chat on the Sunday Night Fundraiser. Of course, we do appreciate that. He threw in a 20. He said, "Good evening, Enforcers. Chef Danny here. And I got to show y'all some love. I just want to say thank you so much for everything y'all do and this community y'all build. It's absolutely amazing people. And LLT, LOSA.
And long live the Lee Spring Army. And thank you for supporting this channel. On Sundays, we never expect to make a cent, ever. But folks like you actually support this channel on Sunday, which is against channel tradition, but we're still happy for it. And we thank you massively for the kind words and the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you so much for saying that the community is incredible. It really is an absolutely incredible community, a truly great one. And I gotta say that it is a massively impressive thing to know that so many people continue to consider themselves to be a part of the LSA and call the LSA home. And so with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. And Matthew, Matthew, if you turned into an old person, Matthew, say you grew old, you're like in your 80s or 90s right now, and you're in a retirement home, what kind of slang would you use in the retirement home to talk to the youngsters and tell them what it was like back in the day?
The slang I'd use in a retirement home.
Yeah, from our time.
Excuse me, Sonny, can you bring me a can of that soup?
You wouldn't use any of our slang from right now?
Now I'd like to retain my dignity.
Bro, I would be up in the retirement home going, Hey, yo, what's up, young blood? All you whippersnappers calling each other G's these days. We used to call each other young bloods. Now shut your damn mouth, Hutch, and go get me some shit. Like, it's on God. Like, that's what I be talking about, bro.
I tell you what, there went all the dignity.
Dude, I'm going to be in that retirement home. They're going to be like, this guy is senile. But at least I won't be going, whoa, Jack, you got to understand. Back in Scranton. Man, you know, wait, no. I got a better man. I'm going to do that when I get in the retirement home. Listen, G. Listen, young blood. Back in the day, back in Wetumpka, the kids used to go run around with the switches. And I don't mean the twigs. I mean the Glocks. They used to carry them around. They used to say they're going to bust someone up. And I used to know what that means. They'd walk around and they'd beat each other. They'd hit each other really hard. They'd get in fist fights. Our principal at the school used to hit the microphone in his palm, and we used to joke that it was something else. And we'd be like, what the hell is he doing that for? Why are we it's like a prison up in here. Real trap shit. Walk with your boys. We make it look easy. Damn, son, where'd you find this? Hey, you young kids, you youngins don't get it anymore. You don't get it. You don't get to listen to the morning dove. Making it sound in the morning. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That that bird's gone. It's gone. It's dead, basically. You don't hear it anymore. Well,
Real trap shit.
You know,
Trapaholics.
that isn't
Walk with your boys.
Damn, son, where'd you find this? That's bro, perfect. Bro, on my end, that's synced up. Like, listen to it. Ooh, that bird's gone. Hold it. Ooh, that bird's gone. It's gone. It's dead, basically.
Bro,
you
it's
don't
gonna
hear
come
it
up to
anymore. Well,
Real trap shit.
you know,
Trapaholics.
that isn't
Walk with your boys.
Damn, son, where'd you find this? Bro,
Oh my god, that was so crazy.
Bro, that was perfect.
crazy.
That was perfect, man. That was synced, like, on the spot. But, man, oh, man, jeez. But, you know, that's a bird you really don't hear anymore, Matt. Do you know the mourning doves? Like, you know that song they used to make?
Well, you actually just have to get out in the morning to actually hear them. That's the problem.
Bro, I don't want... No, we don't.
I came in with a low blow on that one.
Bro, well, we neither of us get up in the morning, man. Like, we're, like, up at, like, 9 or something, you know?
Man, they don't
like,
call them a morning dove for nothing. They're in the morning.
nah, bro, it's not a morning dove like the morning. It's a morning dove as in it's in morning. Like, you know, it's like...
Are you sure about that? I thought it was like in the morning dove. Like,
no, it's a morning dove.
well, shit. I thought it was like morning time dove. I thought it was called the morning dove.
Son. Of course you hadn't heard it because it's in the morning.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, it could. I mean, they are in the morning. I mean, that is facts. I mean, you can see why I get mixed up. What's the morning about? The hell? What did just get hit with a U.S. diplomacy move or something?
Man, this one's in the wire. Man, we got morning doves in the wire. Morning doves in the wire. Oh man. Oh jeez. But what was your question? What was your question?
Oh, my question.
Yeah,
what was it like? What was my question?
I don't even know. I don't even know.
I feel like we're going off the rails right now.
But here's the sound. You know,
it doesn't sound like it's morning to me. It sounds like just like it sounds like just a bird.
That little feller there, though, you get up in the early morning, folks, to go to school, you would always hear that little bird off in the distance. You never hear him a lot these days. I remember you used to hear him every once in a while in the midday. Hey, y'all wouldn't believe it, folks, but basically every single wildlife population's in decline these days. So if you think, like, you know, you're seeing less bugs on your windshield when you go on long drives, and you're not really seeing as many birds, you're not imagining that. The number of birds and insects and everything else in the wild, it's actually decreasing at a bit of an alarming rate, actually. So, you know, it's not like you're imagining something that's actually happening. They're not really around as much as they used to be. But still, I like these things. They always look cool to me.
Yeah, I like those right there. Those are a good bird. Just don't let the North Korean government get a hold of them. You know how they were talking about birds and, you know, eating them and stuff.
These are the birds which we'll eat on Tuesday. Man, like, it's like, yo, eat that thing. Let's see, here's another one in Ontario.
Wow, that one's kind of red.
That one is kind of, man, this one actually glorifies the CCP. It's red. Like, it's look at that. This one's in Mexico. This one's kind of a little pudgy. These eat well. This one is also in California, protecting its young, the squabs, as they're called, apparently. Let's see here. Do we have any? Oh, look, yo, it's Hot Dog Man, morning doves. These in the morning go, ha, ha, Aw, man.
Oh man, how can I play the victim today?
Oh man, I'm gonna call everyone a grifter, and then once I run off an audience because I cuss them out enough, I'll switch to another topic like lickety split. Oh man, but here's one in California again. I don't know what that one's doing, but let's see here. Here's a squab. These are the squabs. These are like when they're just born. This is a juvenile delinquent, and then this is an adult.
Interesting.
Bro, we're going on a really long rabbit hole about this, honestly, for no reason. But anyways, with that, it's time for us to get on into the questions. What do we got, Matthew?
All right, so our next super chat is going to go to Par-Baked Potato, who put into 2. And thank you, Mr. Potato, for that support. He said, Russian cavalry going to get parachuted into Taiwan?
You know, that's a good question. And the answer to that's maybe. I mean, you know, I honestly think the Taiwanese would probably just, like, kind of use them for food, especially if they're being blockaded at that point. So it'd be basically like a food drop for the Taiwanese if that was to happen. But, you know, you never know. It might happen. But big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee, he puts in a 2 as well. And Bruce Lee simply says, and that's all he said.
Oh, I thank you for the support, and I didn't expect that your super chat was going to be read off as a soundboard emote, but I do thank you for the support and helping the channel to keep on running, and you keep quacking on, sir. You keep on keeping on. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
I feel like that's what Zelensky's hearing these days whenever he hears like U.S. Statements coming out and things like that. Like we're hearing, Russia cares for Ukraine. They have their good intentions at heart. Meanwhile, Zelensky's just sitting there hearing this just over and over. He's like, I don't understand. It's in a foreign language. I can't understand it.
I gotta be honest with you all. When I went to West Palm Beach, a lot of people said that America is a lot nicer than Ukraine. And then I went to West Palm Beach and I drove one street off of the beach and it looked like Haiti. And I was like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not that nice. But anyways, I gotta be honest with y'all folks. West Palm Beach is wildly deceptive. Really, the whole Miami area is very deceptive. Because you would think it's a nice area until you actually go down there. Because there's like some really nice areas near to the waterfront, but basically everything else, it's like the equivalent of purgatory basically down there from what it looks like. It's perfectly flat, boiling hot. Everything looks like it's been bleached by the sun. And there isn't really anything nice around there. The whole place looks really run down. Which was much to my dismay because I actually thought it might have been nice. Although I kind of thought that it was going to be hell because it was built on a swamp, and I generally don't like living around swampy land. I'm just not a person for that. But then we went down there and it was really, really bad. Like outside of the Billionaires Row on the beach. I would be honest.
I don't think we know anybody that watches the channel. I don't personally know anybody. Ralph Hand, if somebody lives there, and they haven't told me, but I don't know any viewers actually live in that area that watch our channel at all.
I don't know of any myself. If you are from there, let us know. But
someone I've been talking to for ages, but I'd be like, hey, bro, I've lived there my whole life. I'll be like, wait, look, you didn't tell me you lived in Palm Beach. You didn't tell me you lived in this area.
Listen, how was I supposed to know? Like, that's what we're about to be like. I mean, I'll be honest with y'all. I would move anywhere and live anywhere, to be entirely honest with y'all, before I moved down there. Like, it really did not like it. Like, it was just not really my thing. So, you know, I would like...
It had its day. It had its day back in the day. Like, it had its time. Like, Palm Beach has always been, like, the place where, like, the folks with the money go and things like that. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure if you had money, you'd want to go there right now at this point. It's really such a strange thing because you can go across the bridge where Mar-a-Lago's at on that, like, strip of island out there in Palm Beach, and it's really high end. You're like, wow, this is pretty nice. But the moment you cross that bridge and go back the other side, it turns rough, like, really quick. Like, the difference in income must be massive between the two sides right there. You got the billionaires, and then you have really, really rough surroundings outside of that.
Yeah, but you know
it's interesting.
Yeah, but you know what's even weirder? What the hell? Is that they really don't pave the roads through here. Like, even on the billionaire side. Like, look at that. Like, you would think it would look a lot nicer in the billionaires area, but, like, these streets would have huge potholes in them in the middle of all these, like, multi-million-dollar mansions, which is even more bizarre. And it was like that everywhere.
Yeah, out of all the, I mean, I know better beach spots than this, and you don't have to be a billionaire to live in them.
Yeah, like 38 or something like that up here on the Panhandle. I would say that's way better than Miami. And it doesn't even have any of like the reputation. Like you don't hear people going, "Oh, I went to 38," and you don't hear people saying that. You see hear people saying that about Miami. But in my opinion, my like 38, like everything basically between Destin almost up to Panama City, is great. Everything else around there gets a little bit kind of more into the question. Well, Fort Walton's not that bad, but Panama City really isn't my thing. But Miami though, Miami, like I don't get the whole appeal there. And also someone's like Tampa, Tampa. I don't know anything about Tampa to be entirely honest with you. I've never been there. I just know that there's one Amtrak train service that goes there, and that's all I know about Tampa. Of course I would know that, but beyond that, I don't really know a lot about the Tampa area. Anyways, though, with that, we're on to the next one.
Oh, isn't Walt Disney World's next to Los Orleans?
Orlando?
Yeah, yeah.
Los Orleans.
I don't know why. I was thinking about the California Disneyland when I said that, and I was also trying to think of the name of the city that Disney World's next to, so I mixed them up. But yeah, it's next to Orlando, and it's down here near Lake Buena Vista. Lake Buena Vista. They say it's a great place down there, Lake Buena Vista. I feel like Walt Disney World might be built in a swamp, like with the way the lakes are. It feels like a swamp.
It is a swamp.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is a swamp. Like they have to reclaim the land around here to be able to use it. That's why you'll see out here, this is literally a swamp. Like this is the undeveloped property of Disney. Like the canal is their border, like their kind of like property barrier. But everything in here that is not a part of a park, it's basically a giant swamp. Like you can see it right over here.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it too. Not hating on Walt Disney World, by the way. Although I will say it's gotten exorbitantly expensive to go there. Like I don't understand. I like Walt Disney World. I've been there, I think once or twice or something like that. It was cool when I was a kid, but it's gotten way too expensive now. Like I think I saw some guy going there the other day and he was like spending like $1,000 a night at one of the hotels there. I was like, whoa. I was like $1,000 a night. I'm like, Disney World's cool, but it's not cool like that.
Man, it really isn't. And like it's like you want to go to the Magic Kingdom. You want to hear all the facts that everybody knows, like the House of the Haunted Mansion isn't really the ride, it's the giant building behind it that you can see on Google Earth. Or do you want to know another interesting fact about Disney? That there's a whole bunch of little corridors and tunnels under the entire park that allow for the workers to move around from place to place without you seeing them traveling there. Or how there's a trash can every 30 feet because they didn't want people littering and they wanted to be easily accessible for people to throw away their garbage. Or do you want to know that Space Mountain is supposed to be a space station? Although that was later retconned. Or do you want to know something else, like the People Mover was supposed to be the form of transportation in Epcot when it was actually supposed to be a real city instead of a theme park, and so on and so forth. Or do you want to hear about the rat? We can always talk about the rat, because the rat's a big deal here, and that this and that and everything else. I'll be honest with y'all, folks. After going to Disney World once, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really get the appeal of it too much because it seems more like shopping more so than rides. Like there's more shops at Disney than there are rides. And if you want to shop, you could just do that anywhere. You could go to a mall and go shopping. So I don't really get the whole point of like blowing money out of by the wad load to go to Disney World to basically go on a glorified shopping trip with maybe a ride here and there. Like I don't really get it.
And you could literally go overseas, like to Europe, and have like a pretty decent trip to like anywhere in Europe, like Switzerland or something, for the cost of like staying in the top-notch hotel in Walt Disney for a week.
Yeah, I mean, it's just way too expensive. And then on top of that, the wait lines are insanely long these days. It's like going to a Vail ski resort. Like you got to wait like 4 hours in line to go ride something. It's like, what's the point? Like I don't get it. And then they also got rid of Tom Sawyer's Island. Did you hear about that, Matthew?
No, I didn't hear about that. I don't really keep up with them.
Yeah, they drained this entire thing through here. Well, I think that's at Disney World here. They either did it here or they did it at Disneyland. I'm not really sure, but they drained the entire river, got rid of the boat, and they're also ripping apart everything on Tom Sawyer's Island to go and replace it with something else. I think it's like Cars Land or something like that. And I was like, man, like and also the IP dropping these days is lame too. Like, like they got rid of the only cool ride at Epcot, in my opinion, which was the Nordstrom ride at the Norway Pavilion, and they replaced it with a Frozen ride. Frozen Ever After specifically. It's like, what was the point of that? Like, the other ride was really cool, and it talks about like Norwegian history, and it actually kind of taught you a little bit about them, like, as far as a country, and then they replaced it with Frozen, the IP, which isn't even about Norway. It's just about some random Scandinavian country that doesn't really exist. I don't get it. Like, I don't get really Disney as a whole. Like, that'd be my honest 2 cents on it. There's like a really weird obsession that a lot of people have. Well, it's not weird, but it's just like over the top sort of an obsession that people have with Disney related stuff, and I just don't really get it. And also, a lot of people are just so angry at Disney parks. Like, you never hear a family having fun. They're like, "Get your shit and we're going." It's like I remember
I mean, you'd be mad too if you went into debt to go. Then you're like, dang, I gotta pay that back. It's like it's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to go to see the rat.
You are right. Like, yeah, that would be pretty crazy to spend that kind of money. Like, I would be like a parent at that point, like anyone else. Get your shit, we're going. But anyways, oh man, jeez. But anyways, with that, folks, I hope that does address that well. And also, by the way, folks, I know that some people look at Disney as being political. This is just my 2 cents, folks. Don't take it anyway. But anyways, with that, it's time for us to move on and into the next one.
And also, a big shout out to Parbe Potato once again. He threw in another 5. And he said, train shop in Salt Lake City is cool. They got the model trains up in there.
Hey, and they are pretty cool, actually. I have dropped by there once or twice. They are pretty neat. So big thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Kyle Padell, who puts in a 5. He said, someone passes away in retirement in Forcer. And we're on to the next one. Dang, that's morbid.
Damn. Like, yo. It's like,
tough.
Man, when I'm in the retirement home, hey, where's Nancy go? Oh, she died like 3 days ago. Oh, that's terrible. And with that, we're on to the next one. Man, if I'm doing that in the retirement home, folks, I've lost it. But a huge thanks to you for the support and help with this channel to keep running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we're going to call off our Morse code decoders. We had Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Mason Miami, Joni Dog, Norm Pritchett, Arablo Garbo, Her Royal Fluffiness, Kush Garbage Derek, Sire, and Brian Blairstown. They said, I really don't like the logic of a country killing innocents, wanting the testa for those people.
It was the best for him, but ding, and that's the sound of money. And y'all got that down on the nail. That's the jackpot. That was the Morse code message of the night. I got to congratulate y'all for getting that correct time and time again. You always do get it correct, and it's always impressive. So a huge shout out to Lee Spring Army Student Corps once again. And with that, folks, it's time for us to move on into the next one.
All right. So our first live chat question goes to AF Kaplan, who said, do you think that the U.S. actions in Venezuela is emboldening China in regards to their designs on Taiwan?
I don't really think so, because that's more so on a completely isolated timetable of them getting the amphibious capabilities needed to invade Taiwan. So I don't really think it's changing much of anything for them, but it's definitely creating an environment to where they could take advantage of the America situation if we back off of Venezuela, and it also kind of gives them a better way to internationally justify what they're doing to Taiwan in the future. So I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And our next live chat question goes to Christian Cruz. He said, why doesn't China just take Russia east of the Urals? Because nobody would help them.
Oh, that's a good question. Probably because they get nuked. That's what I would think. But beyond that, I wouldn't know. So I hope that does address that well. Also, by the way, folks, I saw some people talking about like attractions and places they used to go before they got really expensive. There is some amusement park here in Salt Lake City, and you know the one I'm about to show, Matthew, the Lagoon Amusement Park. Which apparently has the tallest vertical drop coaster in the world, which is this one. I didn't even know that that was here, but apparently that, from what you told me, Matthew, I'm going to have to throw the blame entirely on you if that's wrong, but this is
I'm not doing that one.
Man,
I'm not doing that one.
Man, I might. Oh my goodness. They have a peacock. Wow, that's cool. That's pretty neat, actually.
I think that animal has its own television network.
You know, I think they do, actually. And they also have this lion. You know, I think that's MGM Studios right there.
I think it could be. That thing's looking hungry.
Man, bro, this lion's looking at that person like, bro, I could eat you. Like, bro, it's like, dude. And then we got the little tower drops. They got 3 of them on this thing. That's pretty wild. And then they have a Ferris wheel. Honestly, this looks like a pretty cool little park to go to. When it opens, oh my goodness, man! You look, they have that what is it, Kilimanjaro Safari ride from, like, you know, Mount like from the Animal Kingdom park at Disney. Literally the same like ride
Yeah,
vehicles and everything.
Yeah, that's that water rafting one. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's similar.
Like White Water Rapids or something like it was something like that. This actually does look like a cool little place to go, though. They also have this giant spider. That's pretty cool.
Man, I remember that Mount Everest one in Walt Disney World almost did me in. Like, it probably wouldn't do me in today, but when you're a kid, like everything feels a lot larger than it really is and a lot more serious. That one was a doozy when I was young. I would like to I'm not going back and paying the price that Disney's charging today, but I'd be curious to know how that really was like today.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, they got the whole Everest look down like to the finish. It looks just like Everest. I don't really think the vertical drop was that bad though, thinking about it back now. Like it wasn't too bad. I mean, that's where it comes out right there. I mean, that's not even that tall. I think it was just that we were really little when we rode that ride. We were like, I think 11 and 12 when we rode that ride. So, it was very scary to us when we were kids, but I think looking back on that now, it probably wouldn't have been that scary to be entirely honest. But it was cool. Like the theming on it was pretty neat. I liked it.
I was about to have a heart attack going down that drop that they have on this thing. Like going back wasn't that bad to me, but it was going down that main drop. I think it's that one right there. Actually, that thing had me almost having a heart attack.
You know, man, honestly, thinking back about it, I don't think it would have been that bad, man, if we were as old as we are right now. I think this would have been kind of like, oh, that was pretty fun. I don't think it would have been anything crazy.
Yeah, I feel like I'd enjoy it today, but not as a young one. I didn't enjoy it one bit.
But our favorite ride was the Cali River Rapids. That's what we were thinking of earlier. And this one was really fun. I loved this one. Like, it was the greatest. It was kind of like about, like every single Disney ride, by the way, in the Animal Kingdom kind of has like a moral, except for Mount Everest. This one was like, oh, don't deforest. But one thing that was cool, though, is that when you go by the deforested area, let me see. Oh, right here. Yeah, there it is. It would smell like freshly chopped wood every time. They apparently have like some sort of like a scent diffuser in there that does that. And I love that smell. So clearly I'm not good for the deforestation argument, but I always love that smell. And I also like the little drop. You can also see Everest back there in the background on this ride too, so that was also pretty cool. But
I like how Disney like used to design stuff where they added like a little bit of like the bad side of stuff into it, like the chopped down trees and that one, and also in that safari one, the poaching that was going on and stuff. Like I thought that was actually pretty decent personally.
Man, dude, but that soundtrack though, that Kilimanjaro Safari one was terrible. Like that was awful. Like listening to that in line, folks, waiting for 50 minutes and hearing the same soundtrack say now boom boom boom, now boom boom. That literally got ingrained in my brain. I'll never forget that song because we were in that line for so long, and it's like a 3-minute long song, and it plays at least 20 times before you get on that ride because the wait line was so long. And then they got rid of the rickety bridge. Like, the one that we rode on, Matthew, where it was like the rickety bridge. They got rid of it for maintenance purposes, so now they just drive right over that now.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's no rickety bridge anymore. And then they got rid of the dinosaur pavilion. The dinosaur ride, you remember this one, Matthew? The one where you went in and you had to like ride that thing, the rover? They got rid of this.
I remember that.
It's a tragedy, really, an absolute tragedy. But anyways, folks, it's time for us to move on into the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Chef Danny B. And Chef Danny said, does the U.S. have any troops anywhere near to Taiwan right now?
We actually do. We do have U.S. forces currently in Okinawa, which would be about the closest that we have U.S. forces currently. In the future, though, we will be opening up air bases within the Philippines, which technically will be as close or slightly closer than Okinawa. So I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
Speaking of which, the Japanese Coast Guard just sent out a Dassault Falcon, which is a surveillance aircraft that they've modified to go monitor the situation near Taiwan. So it looks like, based on flight radar, the thing's heading straight for Taiwan, right in the zones where the Chinese are actually conducting the exercises. So I don't know if Japan's about to get right in the mix of it, but they're heading that way right now.
Oh, that's interesting, and we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if anything happens before we get off air. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Mary Jacobs, who said, could China's blockade of Taiwan be conducted to stop USA from sending weapons to them?
It could possibly be attempted, but they would be risking a direct confrontation with the United States at that point, which they might not be ready for, and they might not want to pull off now, because that might kickstart the entire war and make them lose it before they had the opportune moment. So I hope that does address that well, and with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Joseph Carr. And Joseph said, didn't we agree to provide Ukraine security when Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons?
Yeah, but the thing about that though is that like kind of like the catch to that is that it was a memorandum and not a binding treaty. So a memorandum is basically like a handshake, you know, like you want to shake on it instead of a written signed contract is basically what that was. So while we did promise to defend them, it wasn't anything binding that we had to uphold. So I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have another super chat from Chef Danny B. And thank you very much, Chef Danny, for the second support of the night. And he said, Chef Danny again. And we have one of the biggest wild animal sanctuary here in Colorado. And we have some of the Tiger King's tiger there. And I took my kids there, and it's pretty amazing. It's called the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Let's take a look at that. The Wild Animal Sanctuary.
The Tiger King. Isn't that the guy who was always fighting with that lady?
Carol
Baskins
yeah,
or
like,
something?
yeah, yeah, it was that thing, dude. Remember that was big during the Whirlybird, like the one from Wuhan. Like everyone was big into that documentary during that time. But here it is. Wow.
Is that a baby one?
No, that was a full-grown one.
Oh, I guess the perspective is just odd. Like it looks small.
Honestly, man, it kind of looks like a plushie down there a little bit. Oh, the wishing well. Man, they going down to the wishing well.
Oh, what the hell's wrong with that bear? So,
like, bro, this I eat berries. Like that. Oh man. Oh, they had a video. Oh, look at this. Oh, these are all wood carvings. So I'll be like, damn, look at that. It's like, what the hell is this? Animal Kingdom or something? And then they got the bears down here, and they got
is that a Kodiak bear?
I think that's one of them brown bears.
I also had one of those ones at Kodiak.
Actually, I think that's a grizzly.
Could be. It looks like Kodiak though.
It kind of does look like Kodiak.
You know those ones you see like getting a salmon?
Yeah, I think those are grizzlies.
Could be. Real grizzly.
Oh yeah, real grizzled sorts of creatures. Look at that tiger right there, man. And then look at this female lion. Look at that. Oh, what a.
That's a leopard.
No, that's a tiger. I mean, a lion right there.
I know. I was trying to think of what the proper word for a female tiger was. I think it's tigress.
A lioness.
Yeah, I think
a lioness.
Tigress.
No, it's a lioness. It's not a tigress. A tigress would be a female lion like that one right there.
A tiger, you mean?
Yeah, a tigress. That's a female tiger.
Yeah, but you said a lioness.
Yeah, but for a lion, it would be a lioness, not a tigress. So you were saying,
that's right.
Yeah. See. It took us a minute to get that one, but we got it. And then there's another grizzly, and then there's oh look, a leopard. Actually, that's a jaguar.
That is a leopard. Damn.
Bro, we not good at taxonomy. Let's see. Well, jaguar animal, not the car, not the sports team, the animal. Man, I come up before the dog. But anyway.
Pitbull actually does come up before the dog, actually, the singer. If you punch in Pitbull, like if you did it right now, he would come up instead of the dog.
Dude.
See, look, he came up before the dog. He was right.
Oh my God, I can't believe that. I thought he was BSing on that, really. I come up before the dog. I was like, yeah, sure you do, man. He actually does. There's also this lion, I mean, that's kind of laying out like a corgi, honestly. This one looks unhappy. That's a long walking trail right there. This bear sleeping next to its refuse. Very nice. A bald eagle squaw. Look, I mean, this is actually a really interesting looking place. I would look at this fluffy one.
Dang, that is a fluffy one right there. I would pet it if you wouldn't maul you. What is that?
Timberwolf.
I thought that was a coyote for a minute. I was like, what are they doing penning up a coyote? You can see those everywhere.
Man, look at this damn pest. We got it in an enclosure. But that's a timberwolf. Timberwolves are majestic. I like them. They're really cool. Let's see. Any other pictures? Oh, that's a black bear right there. These are like everywhere, basically.
You can tell that thing just woke up. It said,
this one looks malnourished. Man. Oh, bobcat.
Oh, bobcat. I can't believe it. Look at that. That's not the type I want.
And a black panther.
I think that thing right here makes fireworks in the season.
You know, I think at one point, man, they were like doing this whole thing like with this almost like planned uprising against the government sort of a deal back in like the 60s and stuff. Man, the 60s and 70s were a wild time. Like,
I feel like if this thing started speaking, it'd be like, I say it's a really bad day out here in the wild wilderness. It's a bad day, but I can't say Earl Grey hot.
man, you know what this thing really sounds like? It sounds like death. They're like, man, it's like, yeah, it's like, dude, these things are scary. Let me go
get you.
Man, let me go see if I can pull up the sound. Not the damn soundtrack for the Black Panther movie. I want the Black Panther animal noise. Let's see. Well, can we get it? So here we go. This might be a clip. How a panther sound. Yeah, get to it. They're trying to pad the runtime. Is it gonna play? Oh, that's what it actually sounds like.
That sounds like somebody faking something. It sounds like somebody doing a sound effect.
Bro, if I heard that in the woods, though, I'm going to be scared. Man, if I heard, like, some upchucking like that, I'd be like, oh, no, we're going to die.
Yeah, that's like the bad signal to up the Glock. That's go time on that one.
Yeah, you hear that and you go, uh-oh, it's time for the blicky. Man, it's like,
I tell you, that's a bad sound.
Man, oh, look at this one. Dude, this bear is wise beyond its years.
I feel like it knows something.
Man, this is that turtle from Kung Fu Panda, you know, Oogway. This is Master Bearway.
Yes.
S. So, like, bro, there's no Y in there. He just said S.
Look at that. That's the wise lion right there. Look at him.
Look at her.
I say, I've never seen such debauchery out there in the hills.
But that's a lioness, dude. That's a her.
Oh.
It doesn't have a mane.
I've never seen such debauchery over there.
Wow, would you look at that? That debauchery. Wow, how ridiculous. That was more so like a kid's voice, but dude, look at these. Dude, the bears are always cool looking. I mean, the bears always look like
Where's
they're
that stream of water coming from?
You know, I wonder. You know, I know.
Is that coming down or is that going up?
Is that even water?
What is that?
I don't know. It's water from like some sort of like a tube above them. Oh, look, that's an orange bobcat. Pretty cool. And then another.
I don't like those.
Is that a?
These are kind of intimidating right here. These things seem like from the pits of hell. These things right here do.
And then you got these two little black bear cubs playing with you. That's cute. That's really cute. Let's see. This one. He's just kind of out of it. Like he's I don't know what he's doing. Honestly, animal pictures are always fun. Oh, dude, that is one plump bobcat. Damn, look at that thing. He's eating them splendidly.
These things are great in construction sites.
Man, they really are. You know, I actually heard that they have this thing about skidding and steering, like skid steer, and then you know they do really good at that. But man, what a cool. Oh, dude, fox. That's sick.
That's a very plush fox.
You know, I like the foxes. I also like the sounds that they make. They're always really cute sounding, even when they get angry. Like, foxes are cool. I like them. That one looks kind of old, though. But let's see. Oh, look, more timber wolves. Not really a lot of people take pictures of these, or the foxes.
Yeah, those are probably the most friendly animals in the park.
Probably. Oh, dude! Yeah, that's cool.
What the heck? That bear right there is living it up.
Yeah, bro, that bear's living in like a high-end hotel, basically. And then you got all these lines laying out like they been laid to sleep for good. And then another little fox.
That's a fox I know right there. Those right there are slinky type.
Man, and then there's this one, which I think is a different species, or maybe just a different hair color than this one. But I like this.
You know, those foxes, there's signs that foxes, I think foxes and raccoons are starting to become slightly, or showing signs of domestication in the United States.
Yeah, I think it's like the shorter snouts, like they say is a sign of domestication, and it's apparently popping up kind of sort of, because they rummage through so much like trash and stuff, so they really don't have to have like the bite force anymore, so their snouts are getting a little bit shorter, which is an interesting fact. This bald eagle, which isn't necessarily bald, it actually looks like it has a hairline a little bit. And let's see. One last picture before we move on. This one. That's cute.
That's a fox right there. Those things right there. I like those.
You know, I would like to have a pet fox. It's just that they're not domesticated, and that's a pain, so I would never have one. But they're cool looking, though, and I like them a lot. And thank you so much for the support, Danny B, by the way, and sharing this interesting place with us. Maybe one day we'll go there and take a look at it.
That's a mangy one right there.
I'm a mangy fox.
Oh, look. Man, I said that was the last one. I lied. Timberwolves, bro. I wish I could pet a timberwolf. Like, I don't care if they're like mean or not. Apparently, American timberwolves aren't really that aggressive to people. It's Eurasian timberwolves that are like extremely hostile to humans. But I would want to pet one of these and one of these. They're pretty cool too. Everything else I could go with it. What are these? I think these are lynxes.
Lynxes?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Those are cool looking.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Man, let's see. Man, just one more, man. Just one more. One interesting one. An interesting one, I says. We have to find it. Those look almost like German Shepherds.
Those are almost like Siberian Huskies, almost. Kind of close to it.
Yeah, and then you have all the normal Timberwolves around them with great coats of fur, by the way. I think you just got these, which also have the same graded coat of fur, but they're just solid white. That's really interesting.
These are just a couple of bones away, a couple of milk bones away from being a pet.
Man, you know, honestly, man, they aren't that far. You know, when you look at these, man, they basically do look like domesticated dogs. It's just that they're really large compared to a normal dog. Even the large breeds of dogs are still smaller than a timber wolf. But, you know, they honestly just kind of look like dogs to me. Like, if you saw one of these out there on the street, I'd be like, wow, that's a pretty wild-looking dog. Kind of looks like a wolf, but I wouldn't think it's a wolf off the bat, actually.
Yeah, it'll bite your hand and smooth off.
Man, that thing gonna bite your hand smooth off. Man, bro, Unc went out there and tried to pet the dog, and that thing bit his hand smooth. Oh man, look, bro. Anyways,
you heard about that blind guy that brought back? I don't know if it was a bunk story or not, or bogus, but there was a thing going around a while that some guy who was like legally blind or something like that was driving back home, and he thought he saw his dog or something, and it was actually a wolf. So he let the wolf into his car or something, and it apparently behaved. And then he brought it home, and his family saw it and was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, it's a wolf. And they were like, "Let that thing go," and they let it go, but it behaved perfectly fine.
Man, that Timberwolf man sat there, saw that guy open up the door. Come here, man. It was like, man, I'm about to get a free ride. Like, man, in life in general, bro. That dog, that wolf was coming home, man. He was going to replace the house dog, man, and try and live with him. He knew it was a sweet ride.
Shocked.
Honestly, man, I think that wolf probably knew what was up and probably thought it was going to be a pretty sweet ride, seeing how all the domesticated dogs were treated. It was like, man, I'm about to be living it up the rest of my life. And then it got kicked out, so, you know, it didn't last that long. But anyway, also, BC Guy said they just reanimated the dire wolf. Have you ever heard of that, Matthew, the dire wolves?
Yeah, I heard about the whole thing about bringing it back based on like its genetics and things like that. I don't know about that whole business like that, but it's fascinating.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
But, you know,
what's the point?
I don't really know. I guess it's just trying to bring back extinct species. You know, like not like dinosaurs, obviously, but stuff that used to be around that we wiped out. Like, honestly, man, if they do that, I don't think it's that bad, but they have to bring back one in particular, the dodo bird.
I would rather bring back those velociraptors, the ones that can open doors and smoke pipes.
Oh, dude, you watched that one clip from that one thing where it's like, yes, I deduced. Like, bro, like, I was like, I know the reference. But, you know, I would want them to bring this back. I mean, just think about it. Instead of having, you know, chicken at every restaurant, you could have dodo.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want it.
I mean, they had to taste it good, though. I mean, we literally hunted them to extinction.
Oh, they could have been desperate.
They could have been desperate.
Are you sure they hunted them to extinction? I thought these things were so stupid they died off.
No, they hunted them to extinction. They were like, they weren't stupid. Like, they called them stupid, but the reason why they called them stupid is because they lived on an island with literally no natural predators, so they didn't have any survival instincts to run away from people. So you could literally just walk up to one, pick it up by the neck, bring it back on your ship, and, you know, kill it on the spot and then cook it and eat it. So that's why they called them stupid. But it was because there was literally no natural predators on their island.
Well, it does kind of look like it's got some meat on its bones. So, I mean, it might be a reason.
Man, that thing could feed a household. Instead of having a Thanksgiving turkey for Thanksgiving, you could have a dodo for Thanksgiving. Think of that, folks. Improvements, people. That's what we should be working on here, bringing back the dodo. But anyways, with that, folks, it is time for us to move on and into the next one.
And this one is going to go to Roby, who said, is Australia or the Philippines in the area as well near Taiwan and ready to assist?
And can you reread that one again?
It says Australia or the Philippines ready to assist Taiwan.
And they're more so like a coastal defense based and not really for power projection, but they kind of could, but not in a big way. But I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Avari Mendebradas, who said, what USN and U.S. Air Force forces are in theater around Taiwan in case the U.S. decides to honor its treaties to counter CCP aggression?
Right now, there's a significant amount of U.S. Air Force aircraft within the area of Okinawa, along with the United States Marine, Aviation, and Marine Corps forces. There is also a decent amount of U.S. Navy forces in the area with the USS, I believe it's the USS George Washington Carrier Strike Group, which is permanently based out of this area, in Japan specifically, I believe out of the port of Fukuoka, if I'm not mistaken. And then there is the U.S. Air installations and naval installations at Guam, and that's basically all of the U.S. forces that would be present. Also, on top of that, the U.S. Army of Korea, which I believe would be the 8th Army. They're also present as well. So those are all of the land, air, and sea forces that we have present at this moment within Indo-PACOM and specifically near to Taiwan. So I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the second last question of the night.
And this one goes to Catalyst Destiny, who said, with the situation going on now, is what this is in response to the $11 billion that the U.S. just approved for Taiwan aid package, or today's Zelensky talk, or is China simply tired of Russian failure?
I think they're just more so doing this because of the weapon sales. I think it actually is directly what they're saying, because they're trying to make it to where diplomatically it's so dangerous to support Taiwan. They're not supported, so that way it'll be easier to take Taiwan on later in the future. I think that's what the real intention of that was today. So with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, Chris Hodge said that Carrier Strike Group is actually based out of Yokosuka. And let me go see if I can find Yokosuka. I'm going to have to type that in. Yokosuka. In the Kanagawa prefecture of Japan. So where... I don't think it is. Like, I'm not necessarily sure on that, because I always heard... And let me double check, because I always heard that that carrier and its strike group was not based here. It was based further south. Let me go check that. U.S. carrier in Japan. That would be the USS George Washington. Oh, and it is actually Yokosuka. That's crazy. I always heard it was in Fukuoka. Apparently not. So I don't know where in the world I got that from, to be entirely honest, to even say where in the world the error lies there. But interesting, and thank you for sharing that, because I actually didn't know that. And you just taught me something new. And so with that, I hope that has addressed that well. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so who is the lucky last person who put in the lucky last question of the night?
And also, by the way, just a real quick note, apparently the China Coast Guard has released themselves a propaganda poster right now. As we were asking earlier, are they part of the exercises? Apparently they're a part of their own exercises, and they released their own propaganda poster titled Patrol and Control the Streets. Or actually not the streets, but just Patrol and Control. And now they're announcing law enforcement patrols around Taiwan. And it shows some of these janky ships that collide into each other occasionally when they're not goofing off, apparently showing up. And also, they have a noose on the thing too, I think.
I think that's some sort of like a maritime knot, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what it is.
I'm not sure what that is. That's a bad look, whatever that is. But it's like strangling the words in the center of the screen. What does that say in Chinese?
I don't know. I don't know that much Mandarin, to be entirely honest. Like, you have to know all the characters individually. Like, each character is special from another. So it's really hard to know it. I only know a few words in Mandarin, but I don't know what that means. But apparently that is patrol and control. Apparently, from what that is. I gotta say though, they go hard on slop, folks. I mean, like, they are absolutely into just straight up slop. I've never seen propaganda posters that are this bad. It looks like they're made literally on Fiverr.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, it's really bad. And also, The Coast Guard ships. I mean, this is silly. Like, I'm not really sure at this point. Like, when they put out these propaganda posters like this, it almost makes you not want to take it seriously. But it's a pretty large deployment, so you sort of have to. But these propaganda posters are not having the effect I think they were hoping they would have.
No, as a matter of fact, it's really making the whole thing look like a joke. Like, honestly, it looks like a comedy routine. But anyways, with that, I hope we were able to address that well. And with that, folks, we're on to the final question of the night. So, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Bootleg. And he said, what is North Korea doing? Is there any movement over there? And I think both China and North Korea will move together to split the U.S. and allies' attention.
They're not really doing much of anything in North Korea right now. The border tensions are always high, but for now they've stabilized. We haven't heard of any heavy actions going on at the moment. It seems so that North Korea has gotten distracted with the really lucrative trade that they're having with Russia to give them weapons, and Russia gives them whatever they get in return. And so that seems to be distracting them for now to where they're not trying to threaten the South Koreans or anyone else.
They test fired a missile today, though.
Oh yeah, I forgot to include that on the news today. I didn't include that. They did do that. But beyond that, nothing too big, nothing big. Beyond that, we're not seeing any border confrontations or like the last time where the North Koreans started to fire around the Pyongyang Islands or along the DMZ. They started to cross it in a place here and there. We're not seeing that at the moment, so not really a lot. Rather than the missile test, which I completely forgot about. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And we have reached the end of tonight's stream, folks. I thank you all greatly for watching. It's been one hell of a night. We had 16.4 thousand people here live at the peak. That's a lot of people. And over the course of this entire stream, 126,000 people have watched this show. I got to thank you all greatly for enjoying this show and heavily appreciating it, because we always love to know that we are y'all's primary source of news. It's great to know that people appreciate what we say and analyze out here, and we always love to know that it hopefully provides some value to folks who listen. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Or, you might not. I don't know. It's a free country. But please make sure to. It makes us happy when we see it. And, hitting the like button doesn't do any bad either. So a big thanks to all of y'all so much once again for watching. And a huge shout out to y'all for raising a whopping $4,147 on the fundraiser. And so with that, we'll see you all on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 48 hours of news from around the world. And if there is enough news tomorrow, Enforcer Matt will be making a short war summary for all of y'all. So with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe. Slava Ukraini, Haram Slava, long live the Lee Spring Army, and long live the Republic.
And with that, folks, we do appreciate all of the 125,000 plus people that watched the stream by the end of it tonight. And we will see you all on Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern to cover the rest of the news for the 48 hours. And also, maybe, most likely, a short war video might be being put out tomorrow midday, because, of course, there's a lot of huge things happening. I would imagine there's probably big news tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, a huge shout out for the over almost $4,200 raised right there on the fundraiser. That is fantastic. And blew away the goal by a long shot. So a huge shout out to everybody once again for helping another great Ukrainian charity, which is Razom. But we will see you all on Tuesday. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Hiram Slava, get some rest, and good night.